Cocktails. Wow. I think this, like, I mean, it has almost a bit of like there's like a slight aspect of it that kind of does remind me of a vermouth. So I'm thinking like something like a Manhattan with this would be fantastic.
I've turned it into vermouth. Back when we weren't allowed to use vermouth in the bar, I converted it into a vermouth to make Manhattans.
Oh, really?
It also has kind of this like cognac-y, kind of brandy aspect to it, a little tequila-ish. And so like Vieux Carrés with it are very fun. Manhattans with it are very fun. Whiskey sours are actually the number one seller that we put it in, believe it or
Oh,
not.
interesting. Well, I
Yeah.
think that could work because I think it, the flavors are kind of bold and big, and I think it can hold up to something like a sour. So I think that makes sense. It's like a little smoky, a little bit like. I mean, it's so interesting how the wood's expressing itself. It's not coming across as like I guess tannic's not really the word, but it's not coming across as like astringent, like I kind of thought it might.
Mhm.
But it just really is just really delightful, and man, that is such a good start. I'm glad that you guys are still making that because I've never had anything like that.
Thank you. It's funny too. Every time we drink it, I feel like I get a different flavor note out of it. And today it's spearmint.
Oh yeah,
Spearmint.
Just a hint of spearmint on there.
yeah. I actually get what you're coming from with that. It's I got like a white sage, so it's like
Wow.
that kind of green, kind of leafy sort of aspect to it.
Yeah, I was definitely getting some kind of herb. I just couldn't quite necessarily place it, but yeah, that sounds like right up what I'm getting. Well, cool. Well, let's keep it moving. Let's go ahead and move on to our next one, which I think is the Tawny Port.
Correct.
Tell us about this one.
So this one is 92 proof. It was a blend of several port aged barrels put together. I believe it's about 5 years old. Is that what the bottle says?
You lose track when you've got like 20 of these sitting behind you at any given
No
time.
worries.
It is 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a it's your typical story. We got a port barrel from Portugal, go figure, and we picked some really fun whiskeys that had some kind of cinnamony, fruity, and like nutty dispositions to them, and moved them to port barrels, trying to give them a little bit of a lift and kind of leaning into that port flavor. And it was available in the market for a short time. We still have some stock here, so if anyone out there liked it in the market, come to Centennial and you can still buy it. But a very much what you would expect from a port bourbon. Though we did choose tawny port specifically. There's a lot of ruby port finishes out there that tend to be more fruity. Here at Branch and Barrel, a lot of us are big tawny port fans, that nice dessert wine, and it adds that nice kind of caramel heft behind the fruit, and we think that pairs with a bourbon even better.
Well, I can just tell color-wise. I mean, that is a lot of impact from that port. How did you get the barrels? Were they kind of broken apart? Were they wet barrels? I'm just curious how you get so much color on a port finish.
They were wet when they were shipped. So obviously they weren't as wet when they arrived because travel time. But we did get them right after they dumped it. They put it on a boat, sent it to us, and then we went ahead and just filled it immediately when they arrived.
Awesome. And with it, how long was it finished? You said it's 5 years old. Was it 5 years before and then you put it in the finishing cask, or just curious, like age-wise, just to estimate if you have it?
I believe it was 4 years before the cask. I believe it was in the cask for about a year.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's been a minute since I've had a port finished bourbon. I see that a lot with rye whiskey, but I feel like a lot of times bourbon kind of strays away from those heavily port casks. At least in my experience. Was there a reason that you thought this was a good fit? You said you seem to have been making it for a while.
Well, I personally thought it was a really good fit because I love tawny port and I love the richness that comes from it. And I just think our bourbon tends to lend itself into that caramel, kind of sweet, butterscotchy flavor profile. Right. And I thought the sweetness and the heavy sugar notes in tawny port specifically would pair really well with our particular bourbon flavor, that Colorado style bourbon. And then the fruit would let it soar into a whole new dimension that it doesn't normally get to play in. And I think it turned out lovely.
Yeah, we both like this one a lot. I remember when we were picking the barrels and taste testing before we decided to bottle them, we were getting like cherry pie and strawberry shortcake as some of our flavor notes. And we had never really had anything up until that point come across, especially anything that, wasn't like honey infused or something like that, come across as that dessert forward. So this has historically been one of our more like desserty bourbons, I think.
For sure. Yeah, definitely get that cherry pastry kind of vibe going through it the whole way.
That makes me really excited because I'm looking back at my notes from the 3 and 5 year bourbons that you guys did, and I got a lot of cherry and I got some vanilla. So I feel like this just on the nose smells like that, but like turned up, like quite a few notches. So I'm gonna go for a taste. Cheers. Oh, interesting. Wow, there is a lot of that. that almost kind of reminds me of a bit of like a fortified wine. I mean, I guess it is a fortified wine technically, but almost like it's like almost like drinking the wine itself. Like it has a little bit of that like oxidation kind of thing going on for it. Is that something? I mean, I'm not super familiar with tawny port. Is that a characteristic that I kind of think might go with that port?
Tawny port definitely tends to taste a little bit more oxidized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I know like that's people look for that note sometimes. Like I think it just caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting like that element, but it really does enhance that cherry that I got on the bourbon itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you also get that nice like brown sugar cinnamon kind of aspect behind it as well. And a lot of that is the pairing of the bourbon with the wine itself. It just highlights those kind of heavier sugar spice notes. Just kind of tastes like Christmas.
That's a good one. Yeah, I definitely get some like nutmeg and cinnamon. I think you said cinnamon earlier on. I do get like the cinnamon spice there as well. I mean, this again, what I'm discovering is like these flavors are so intense. They almost drink like cocktails themselves. Like, I mean, this almost drinks like something that's already been mixed and blended into a cocktail. Would you use something like this in a cocktail? Or if so, like what kind of cocktails would you use this in?
It is our standard spirit for our Manhattan in our bar now.
Makes sense.
We like, we like to do it. Yeah, we like a tawny port Manhattan. It just something like, I mean, you can taste it in the bottle, like you said. It does lend itself in that fortified wine direction. Add a little vermouth, some bitters. We add walnut bitters to our Manhattan to kind of add a little more weight behind it rather than the orange. And it is definitely a top seller for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, cocktail in a glass. I think I could just throw it over an ice cube and just sip on that and just have a nice, like you said, dessert pour. That's really, really cool. Very different than other port finished bourbons I've had. So it's definitely strong in the wine category. So if you're looking for that really intense tawny port flavor, you're going to find it here.
Yeah, well, and that's part of the benefit of aging it for a year. Is a lot of finishes are anywhere from 2 months to 6 months, and we left it for a full year to maximize that flavor profile. Because it was intentional. We wanted it to be loud, proud, and let you know what it is.
Yeah, I think the nuttiness, I think, is one of another thing that we didn't mention, but I think the nuttiness comes through. I think with my limited experience with tawny port is it has like a very strong nutty finish, and I think I'm getting quite a bit of that on the finish of this. I didn't notice it till I just kind of took a break from sipping it. Awesome. Well, are we ready to move on to the next one? Now, this one I've not heard. Oh, sorry, we're doing cognac next, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've heard of cognac. Let's go ahead and move on to the cognac cast. Tell us about this one.
So this is one of our double gold award-winning casks. We were very proud to find out. This one's at 106, I want to say.
Okay.
I knew it was a little higher than the last one. But yeah, this particular one, we also left it for close to a year in the cask. But we did get an official French cognac cask. We threw bourbon into it for close to a year, and the flavor that came out of it is one of my favorites we've ever produced.
Really?
I think it lends itself to like a nice brown sugar raisin sweetness behind the bourbon, but it allows the bourbon to still sing through. And it is absolutely been one of my favorite old fashions, and I believe we've done a few other cocktails with it. I've definitely used it in a Vieux Carré riff and a Sazerac riff and a few other things, but it's just a really good pour.
Yeah, on the nose alone, I'm getting such like a strong like tobacco and a bit of a smoky note. There's also some leather there as well. I mean, it really, like you said, it is a complementary. I've always thought cognac casks were very complementary to bourbon. But it's nice to see that it doesn't fully overtake the bourbon. I mean, you can tell this is not a cognac. This is definitely a bourbon, and just really, I mean, you mentioned an old fashioned. Oh, that sounds fantastic with this. It's all the notes that you want in an old fashioned, minus like the citrus. So once you combine with the simple syrup and the citrus, you got. I mean, I can already imagine how delicious this is. I haven't tasted it, but I'm gonna go for a taste. Cheers. Yeah, still, I mean, it's interesting because it's tobacco and smoke, but not like tobacco smoke. It's like the raw
Right.
tobacco leaf. I'm getting that aspect, but there's like a light, like just like a bit of like an ashy smokiness there that not like peat or anything crazy like that. Just like a little bit of like a campfire thing going on. Is that coming from the cognac or is that from the bourbon? What do you think?
I think it's a combination of the two playing together because you are getting a little bit of the barrel char, but I do think that the cognac itself tends to play in those heavy flavors. And I think it's accentuating the char of the barrel and lifting out that smoky character.
Getting a lot of creme brulee on this one today too.
Yeah.
That
But it
was the
also
note
has
that I
this
remember
little-
having just on your lineup across the board. I think creme brulee is like a pretty defining characteristic of the bourbon that you guys make, because I get that all the time with everything you guys sent, which I love. It's one of my favorite notes.
Oh yeah, I think that's one of the things that, I mean, I guess because it is Colorado style bourbon, we can say that that's part of what helps define that particular style, because we're finding that that's
Okay.
coming across both through our grains and through the barrels we're using, and then the way that it ages, of course, too. So
Interesting. Okay.
the extraction of those flavors from the barrel is just happening at the perfect time for when we're releasing these right now.
Right. It's not like just the standard vanilla and caramel. It's like a bit of like a toasty element, like a bit more of a, like you said, a little bit of the burnt sugar. Like, I love it. I think we were trying to discuss what makes the Colorado bourbon, I think last time, but I think maybe you guys are maybe starting to narrow down the kind of what flavor profile you guys like and what you like to make. It sounds like, at least because the consistency here is pretty incredible.
The extraction itself definitely plays a huge role in that, and that's kind of one of the things that we're really working on getting more forefront in the way that we talk about our spirits, is the importance of Colorado. You know, obviously the terroir is important, and then the climate part of that, where we have some of the more dramatic temperature swings. I mean, our temperatures are crazy. It's 70 degrees today, and there's snow on the ground. Like, it snowed 2 days ago, like a foot. And it's 70 today.
The weather, I've been here just in general right now. The weather is crazy. I mean, I'm in Southern California. It's like 80 degrees. Like, I'm having the best time. I went to the beach over the weekend, but but I've heard the fluctuation just across the country right now is like crazy. And like you said, 70 degrees with snow on the ground. Like, that sounds uniquely like Colorado. Like, I've only been flown through that. I've never had a chance to actually visit, but I just feel like the weather is such a unique aspect of that region of the country.
Yeah, snow on the ground and people walking around in shorts and sandals is definitely like a very Colorado vibe. But because of those temperature fluctuations and then the climate, like, obviously because it's so dry here, we are losing more to evaporation, but that's concentrating the flavor a little bit more quickly. And between that and the amount of extraction that's happening earlier on in the whiskey's life cycle, and I'm not going to compare that to maturation. That's kind of a big argument in the industry now, is whether or not extraction and maturation are, relative, or how they go forward alongside one another. But we are definitely seeing that extraction wise, we are getting more flavors that you would expect in an older whiskey with our younger vintages. And some of those for us just happen to be those really strong, like, creme brulee vibes.
Yeah, breaking down those lignans and vanillins in the oak and extracting it out much more efficiently so you get it earlier. But yeah, this particular one, this is trail mix to me. You get your cashew, peanut, a little dark chocolate. You get kind of that like dehydrated fruit, like little cherry and raisin kind of thing going on. It's just a good pour. I've enjoyed this with a few Maduro and natural cigars myself, just because it pairs so beautifully with that natural tobacco.
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite so far. I'll just say, I just really like. I think the flavors are so complementary, and I feel like I have had other cognac finished bourbons, and I don't think they've worked as well as this is. So maybe it's just the environment. Like I said, that's one thing I love about trying distilleries around the country. Just the climate and everything, the elevation, things like that. Affect it so much you don't realize as a consumer. But like, not everything's gonna taste like a Kentucky bourbon. Just like Texas whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, they all taste unique. And I think I'm coming to love what Colorado can do, and I want to kind of start expanding, start exploring a lot more Colorado bourbon and just whiskey in general, because there seems to be a huge whiskey scene there. I actually just discovered a YouTube channel earlier today that literally just does Colorado whiskey, and he has so many videos. There's so many distilleries out there.
Which one is that?
Oh, hold on, let me find it. Hold on, I'll pull it up.
We've got some good influencers out here.
I was looking up a review of your whiskey. I don't think he had you guys on, but I think it was just a review of one of your products. Hold on, I'll find it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good whiskey out here. There's a lot of good people who really appreciate it, and it's been gaining a lot of traction, especially lately. You've got some huge brands out here doing some cool stuff. I mean, everyone knows, Laws does amazing work. Stranahan's is well known, but there's some other people getting a lot of attention right now. Bear Creek, Root Shoot. And then, there's so many. Talnua is famous for doing like the only Irish style whiskey outside of Ireland. And
Oh wow.
Mile High, Spirit Hound, 291. There's a lot of guys we like. We do have a lot of great whiskey out here.
yeah, and I think that a lot of that is the water, because there's been craft breweries out here forever because the water is so high quality. We're like number one or number two in the country for like water. And so
I can
distilleries,
imagine, just like with the mountains and everything. It seems like it'd be the perfect place for pure water.
yeah.
Yeah, the state as a whole just produces really unique tasting whiskey, and it's something that people don't always think about when they're thinking about like Colorado whiskey age statements is that, sometimes we get questions like, oh, well, when are you going to do like a 10-year or a 12-year or 15-year? Like, well, if our barrels still have liquid in them at
Right.
that time, we'll let you know. It's unfortunately the angel share is a pretty real thing out here, but because I mentioned it earlier, because like the extraction is so unusual and unusually high, we're actually finding that for our flavor profiles, like the maturation is happening around that like 3 to 8 year point. And I'm not speaking for all of Colorado distilleries. I'm just saying for us, we've kind of realized that that's the sweet spot where, and this can happen really anywhere too, but over oaking does happen as well. So once
Definitely.
some of our spirits we've kind of tasted that are a little bit older, that's started to become a concern. It's like, if we left it in there for too much longer, is that more intense extraction actually going to start to drift the other direction and detract from it rather than complementing it?
Definitely. I mean, that's like, I think one of the first ways I learned about that was like Texas whiskey. Like you can't age Texas whiskey 10 years or else it'll just be char in a barrel. Like it won't be so I think that totally makes sense. By the way, the channel I was referencing, the Colorado Whiskey Guy, relatively small channel, but he has about 300 subscribers. You guys go make sure to subscribe if you're watching this stream. He did a video saying like I was wrong about this bourbon, and it says he was shocked by one of the new releases. So I will be honest, I didn't fully watch it because I didn't want to like spoil it or anything, but it sounds like he's impressed with the newer releases.
He does a great job of covering the Colorado whiskey scene too. He's usually on top of it.
Yeah. If you follow his channel, he's constantly posting what every distillery he's aware of is doing every week, basically.
Oh, wow.
Like, these guys are putting out this release. These guys are having this party, and he'll just keep you informed of like all sorts of going-ons out here. It's a great guy.
Such a niche thing, but like I said, the Colorado whiskey market's way bigger than I thought it was. Like I feel like if I were to do that for the California whiskey market, I'd be like 2 videos a month maybe. But I mean, Colorado, it sounds like you guys have a lot going on out there in terms of just distilling.
Yeah, we've got a lot of really unique distillery concepts too. If you decide to explore the Colorado whiskey scene, there's a lot to love.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's keep exploring. Let's go ahead and move on to our next pour. This is the is it Toasted Acacia?
Yeah, so this is when we're going to take a turn for the weirder, but not in a bad way. Just uncharted territory, if you will.
Okay.
I was communicating with one of the people who helped supply me with barrels, as they get inventory where they're like, oh, we got some port barrels, we got this barrel, are you interested? And they reached out and said that they had a virgin toasted acacia wood barrel. And I had only ever seen that in white wine.
Or furniture.
Furniture. Specifically,
I feel like I've never heard of it. Well, actually, now that you mentioned furniture, that's where I've heard it before. Tell us about acacia wood. I've never heard of it being used for spirits.
It's a really dense wood, so that's why people like it in the furniture realm. Just makes good, solid furniture.
Yeah, and it is used occasionally in like Sauvignon Blanc, I believe, as like a finishing barrel.
Every now and again, you see it in wine finishing.
Yeah, but I had never seen it in spirits, and they were like, hey, we have one. It's only been toasted. Are you interested? And I said, that's the weirdest thing I'd ever heard. Please send it to me. And so we decided to do kind of a double oak thing where we took, I believe it was about a 4.5-year-old, I think, bourbon, and then decided to transfer it into this completely untouched toasted acacia wood barrel for about a half a year. And just kind of let it sit in there to mellow and give it a whole new extraction from new flavors and new kinds of chemicals in the oak or in the wood, rather specifically not oak. And it gave it such a unique flavor and profile, a lot of like sandalwood and like this dusty kind of wood note. It is.
I usually say like old attic or like an old like cedar chest, something like just like a vintage kind of like dusty. Sometimes I say dusty library. So I think that's kind of on that same track there.
Yeah, kind of wood shop, dusty library, little incensey, and it is our standard in our Sazerac in the bar.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So do you guys work with a specific cooperage, or like how do you come like how do they come to you with such a unique barrel? Did they make it thinking like, oh, someone should put some whiskey in this? Like how did that even happen?
It's not from our usual cooperage. It was just kind of a barrel site where like they'll buy barrels from people that aren't being used. And I guess someone had produced this barrel that never got picked up. And so they picked it up and offered it to us. Our usual cooperage recently has been West Virginia Great Barrel Company.
Okay.
Though we were using a lot of Adirondack before that, and we've used ISC and Barrel 53 and, you know, a number of other places, just trying to figure out, you know, what flavor profile works, how can we blend them together, make something interesting, and just kind of play in the space.
Well, speaking of interesting, I just took a sip of that one. Wow, it's very different from the nose. The nose kind of had me to believe it was going to be kind of more like a classic bourbon, but on the palate, there's so much more nuances there that I wasn't expecting. What do you guys? You said sandalwood. What else do you guys get on this flavor profile?
I mean, I still get that like kind of creme brulee, kind of like almost like tapioca kind of thing going on there, which is kind of fun. But it does lend itself to like this Nag Champa, sandalwoody, incensey kind of vibe.
It's definitely complex. There's a little bit of like a bakery spice cabinet thing happening in the background too. You have your nutmegs and your allspices. Not so much cinnamon, but almost like a little hint of vanilla in there too.
Yeah, I'm getting that, and then I'm also getting like a bit of like a some sort of like a zestiness. I'm not sure if it's like an orange or like a lemon or something, but there's something like on the back end that kind of, when you mentioned doing a Sazerac with it, I could almost I see those. I see why those flavors just feel like they would be very complementary to this, because like you said, you're getting like those baking spices, a little bit of that like dusty library kind of thing. But when you combine that with like, you know, Pashad bitters and, you know, everything that makes Sazerac so great, I think this, man, I wish I had more so I guess I'll have to buy some bottles and start making some cocktails with it.
Yeah, it almost has like a cassis kind of note in there, which is kind of fun, a little tea. And then also like, if you've ever been like, this is so niche, but if you've ever been boot shopping and you go into like a Western store, there's that like kind of pervasive like waxed leather kind of note that like kind of fills the air. There's like kind of a little bit of that in there too.
I grew up in South Carolina, so we would always buy our like uncles and dads new boots for their birthday. So I'm very familiar with that smell. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I said leather on this one or one of the other ones, but like, yeah, leather seems to be pervasive here. I got it on that, and I got it on the cognac as well. Which is so interesting to me, with this being, you know, relatively, you know, I wouldn't say, you know, it's more like mid-range in terms of like the bourbon industry, right? You know, 4 to 7 years. I think there's so many flavors that I'm getting here that I've never gotten on a bourbon that's in that age range. I usually get it in older bourbon. So that just is a testament to what you say about Colorado bourbon. It's like, it's just the environment that it's aging in. It's really extracting those flavors earlier than you would expect from, you know, maybe a Kentucky bourbon or something. So, but it doesn't feel like it's rushed. It feels like you're getting the true authentic experience. You know, I see a lot of people try to rush age, whether they're using a small barrel or, you know, extreme temperatures, and it just never actually tastes authentic. This is giving me the true authentic flavors that I love in American whiskey.
That's awesome to hear. We think part of that is, you know, you're getting your forced filtration through the wood. So you're picking up more of the congeners from the wood, but you're also picking up more of the charcoal filtration. So it smooths at like relative to the amount of extraction that's happening from the barrel. Extraction. I'm just gonna keep saying that word.
Yeah, extraction. I like it. But like he was saying, I mean, yesterday we had like 8 to 10 inches of snow, and today it's t-shirt weather. It's like 70s, like 60s, 70s.
So the whiskey's just being blasted through that oak, like a lot.
I was gonna say, do you guys have like temperature controlled rickhouses, or is it just open to the elements?
No, there's like heaters in it. So if we get like a long freeze that's really bad, we're talking negatives for like a week, then we could fire them up to keep the whiskey from going below freezing. Because if it does, it'll stop extracting as well. Sure. But I think we've only turned them on once in the lifetime of the company.
Yeah, we typically, and that's just like Colorado weather. We usually don't get that cold for that long.
Is there like a Colorado whiskey trail? Like, is that kind of like a thing that's kind of been set
Yes.
up? I'd love to visit.
There is.
Yeah, our Distillers Guild actually runs
Hmm.
that. There is a Colorado Whiskey Trail app, and so that's got.
Okay.
I think as many distilleries that are willing to submit their information are included in there. There was, I don't know if this is true now. I think we had over 100 at one point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know if that's the case anymore, but there are still a lot of great distilleries to explore in the state. And what's kind of cool about Colorado is, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other states like this too, but you can go out into the mountains or like the middle of nowhere and still find like really cool distilleries and breweries and wineries in some of these smaller Colorado towns that are just doing awesome stuff.
That's like a Snitching Lady in Fairplay still
Mhm.
does open flame distillation.
Oh,
It's
wow.
wild.
Yeah.
And it's legal?
Yeah. I mean, they make it happen, and their whiskey's good too. But they're out in the middle of the mountains, and I've every time I'm out in that area, I visit because the cocktails are good, the whiskey's good, and they're cool people. They've always been super nice. I also always visit woods as well, but Snitching Lady still using fire to run their stills is just an insane thing to me.
Yeah. Minturn whiskey now
Yeah,
coming up, doing single malt out in this tiny little town off I-70.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys say that, like, you're sure it's happening in other states, but I don't think I've seen that much concentration of it in a state other than, of course, Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, the standards. I feel like Colorado to me is like the up and coming. And do you think it's because I know Colorado for a while was known for like the craft beer scene. Do you think that's kind of evolved into being like a craft spirit scene as well? Or do you think that's completely unrelated?
I think we just like to party.
That works.
true.
We're just and I don't know if this is like the right way to position this, but when it comes to things that are in like the vices world, we've always been pretty trendy on that. I mean, between like the green rush and the
Right.
decriminalization of mushrooms and you introduce craft beer, it blows up. You introduce craft spirits, it blows up. People like what they like here, and it's a place that a lot of people come to enjoy their life, work to live to work, wherever you fall in that spectrum. A lot of people who are in Colorado are out here to have a good time. So it's a good state to find those types of things. It's just what people are looking for.
Well, and the good water doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
The good water, yeah. You gotta recover from all the vices that you're indulging in. Anyways, water is always good.
Well, that and like the underrated agriculture part of it too. I mean, we do have really great grains out here, just depending on where you're at in the state. And I think what Mitch was talking about is like the Rocky Mountain snowmelt water or the spring water that a lot of people are using. Most distilleries are using either like Rocky Mountain snowmelt or El Dorado spring water. We actually have water rights to our own wells that we dug extra deep in. So we're pulling like super, super awesome water out of the Arapahoe Aquifer. It's like basically centuries old Rocky Mountain snowmelt. So you can pretty much drink it right out of the well. It's clean, it's iron free, it's mineral rich. We think it's some of the best water in Colorado, and that definitely comes through in the whiskey.
I mean, that's something very unique to what you guys do. And I think I would have thought, a lot of times I feel like you hear just water and you think like, oh, it's marketing speak. But I mean, other states do the same thing. They swear by their water. So there's got to be something in the water, let's say literally, right? Like the water is kind of what makes it unique and special. And I think it all brings it back to it being, very local. I love the hyper local aspect of it. And you guys are kind of really embracing that through your grains, through the water, through everything.
Mountain magic.
Awesome. Well, before we get into our last one, I do want to ask, I know when we last chatted, you guys talked about the fact that you guys were exploring some sort of pea whiskey, like sweet, or I don't know if it's sweet peas or just peas. Now I know I'm looking at your website, you have a peppercorn peas release, and you say it's a follow-up to your other release, Peas Please Spirit. So it sounds like something happened with this. Tell us what has happened with the Pea Spirit.
So we are bringing peas back. Traditional old school peas. We got barrels of it still aging. We're going to do another release this year.
OGPs.
OGPs, baby. The peppercorn pea was kind of an interesting experiment.
Why the hell not, if you will.
If you will.
Love it.
And
Love
we
it.
will. Where the owner, he liked peas, and that's actually, we got the peas from his neighbor. So he owns agricultural land. He does a lot of farming. His neighbor had over-farmed the property and stripped nitrates out of the soil. And so to combat that, he planted acres of peas to put nitrates back into the soil. And when he was done, he had all this leftover peas. He's like, I'm never going to eat all of this. I got to sell some. And so Scott, one of our owners, was very kind. He bought a truckload of peas off this guy. And I mean like a literal truckload. And he was like, well, I can't eat all this either. And so he looked into it, and it's full of carbs and sugars. It'll ferment, which means it'll distill. So we decided to introduce about 30% of it into our mash bill and make a whiskey with peas because, I don't know, we can. Might as well. And so we've got a lot of it aging. But while it was aging, he got this idea. He's like, you know what I really like with my peas is pepper. Like black pepper, like on top of my peas. And so he introduced 3 different colors of peppercorn to the barrel while it was aging, just to see what would happen.
Sure.
And thus was born the peppercorn pea whiskey. A little bit spicy, a whole lot of earthy, and just a totally insane amount of fun.
Interestingly enough, it comes across more as like a Szechuan kind of flavor profile. It even has that like lightly anesthetizing effect on the tongue, numbs your tongue a little bit. Not like a buzz button or anything, but it just has this like lightly tingly quality to it. But you do taste and smell the peppercorns themselves. I think it was like black, pink, and tricolor or something.
Yeah, it was like black, pink, and green, I think. But it imparted a lot of flavor, but it still has that umami kind of, like mushroomy character to it.
Interesting.
Shiitake mushroom a little bit, a little soily, and it still has that sweetness because there is still the corn and the sweetness from the peas as well. So it's this kind of like juxtaposition of sweetness from corn and soily earthiness from the peas, and it makes a super cool spirit. We did a shiitake mushroom infused old fashioned and paired it with venison for a little bit there, and it was insanely good. So
yeah, the peppercorn definitely lends itself a little bit more to the more niche avenues of mixology. But the base spirit, the peas please, has a taste that almost comes across, and these are my words. This is the way I've described it since the first day I tried it. But it tastes to me like somebody combined our bourbon with a reposado tequila. Like it's got this vegetal quality to it. It's got this earthiness, but they play really nicely together.
I mean, that sounds like you got to try it. Like I feel like if you're at the taster room, I mean, I assume the peppercorn peas is still available. Do you guys have that for people that visit the distillery?
Yeah, just come ask for a pea sample.
Oh well, I could. Yeah, I feel like Colorado's not where I would ask for a pea sample. I feel like there's too many things that could be in that pea. But also, we got one more whiskey to try here. This is one that I've been very curious about. I love the name; it's very on brand. Tell us about Skill Check.
Yeah, the label is also fantastic. Designed by.
Let me highlight you guys. Let me full screen that. There we go. Look at that.
A 4-player collab.
Wow. Okay, 4 players. Tell us about the 4 players.
This one's got a really fun story. So we have become really good friends with an awesome couple gals, Jess and Mary, that run Whiskey Slickers. They kind of stemmed out of another whiskey club they had called Broads of Bourbon. And over the course of becoming friends with them through the last year, they had invited us to come do some barrel picks with them and made the introduction to root shoot malting and mile high spirits. So we went out with them, we tasted a bunch of whiskey, we had an awesome time getting to know everybody. We helped them pick the barrels. And as we all were talking, we're just like, well, these are all really good whiskeys. We're having a great time. We're really enjoying these. What if, we're all cool people. What if we did a cool thing together? What if we blended a little bit of each of these different barrels? Because they had done a barrel pick with us as well after that point. And so what if we blended all of these together and just saw what happened? It's kind of an unusual combination too. We've got our flagship bourbon. What was our proof? 106 or so?
106, yeah.
And then we had Mile High. They're famous for a hazard proof wheated bourbon that I think was somewhere around like 137 or something like 130. It was high.
I was saying, with it being hazmat, it's got to be over 140.
And it's real good. It's real good for being that high too. If you're in Colorado, definitely try some Mile High. They do awesome work. And so we took their hazard proof wheated bourbon and then root shoot had recently won for their single malt, which is distilled using their malt that they're growing on their properties. They had won, what was it, best single malt in the world?
I think it was best single malt in the U.S.
In the U.S. They
Wow.
we're obviously misquoting this. Look them up. It was a really cool award, and they deserve nothing but props for it. It was amazing. It was amazing American single malt, especially coming from Colorado. And again, like Colorado terroir, agriculture, et cetera, really makes for a unique product. But they had recently won a huge award for that, and they were kind enough to lend us some of that liquid so that we could put it in the blend. So we did Colorado single malt, wheated bourbon, and then our flagship bourbon, which is corn and barley together. So it's kind of an unusual combination. And we went through a lot of different iterations of the blend. That was like the blending part of it was probably what took the longest. And we all worked together collaboratively on that too, which was a ton of fun. But we did arrive at a ratio combination that we all kind of fell in love with. And it's the highest proof thing that Branch and Barrel has ever released by no intention of our own. Specifically, our whiskey brought the proof down.
Yeah. Right, because you guys distill, or you guys barrel at the lower proof, right? Gotcha.
And so we ended up at about 120.3 on this one. So this was kind of our first foray into the, like, you want something a little bit more stout, you want a higher proof, and now we've got something that fits that bill. But it's got a tremendous flavor profile. It was a ton of fun putting this project together. Shout out to Broads of Bourbon, Whiskey Slickers, Mile High, and Root Shoot for working with us on this one, and also allowing us to come film an absolutely ridiculous series of content to help promote it on their properties. We dressed up like D&D characters, or our haggard approximations of D&D characters. Mitch's costume was legit. Mine was not.
Yours was amazing. Don't sell yourself short. He was a drunk wizard in a bathrobe with a mash stir as a staff.
And
I mean, anything goes in D&D. So I haven't seen that, but now I'm definitely going to look that up after we do this stream.
If you want to kill some brain cells on some time you'll never get back, you can watch. There are 10 of them. You can watch all 10 of those videos. They're in our Instagram.
Oh my gosh. Well, high proof whiskey will also help with those brain cells. So I'm excited to give this a try. Like you said, it's a blend of wheated bourbon, a straight bourbon whiskey from you guys, and then an American single malt. That's so interesting.
All Colorado brands coming together to make something cool together.
That's so fun. All right, I'm gonna go for a taste. Cheers.
I love that pour so much.
Oh wow.
Getting like chocolate and lemongrass.
I feel like I just want to say
lemongrass, lavender, or something like that, and chocolate.
Chocolate, yes. I 100% get the chocolate. I was gonna say, like, for something so complex and so different with so many different parts to it, it just works. And I feel like, I don't know how and why there's so much involved here, but like it feels cohesive. It doesn't feel like there's like multiple parts trying to outshine each other. It does feel like everything came together to create this really nuanced, chocolatey vanilla, like it's like a milk chocolate, like a sweeter chocolate kind of note. Wow. Very, very different. What made this final blend be the one that you guys chose?
There was a lot of drinking that day, so don't quote me on this.
So much fun.
But it was just, we tried probably 15, 20 different blends, I think, if what's left of that memory serves. And it was just going back and forth. Like, we'd adjusted a little bit here, we'd adjusted a little bit here, and then we kind of fact checked ourselves closer to the bottling date just to make sure that everything still presented like we expected it to. We made some kind of minor adjustments that day, but we were really looking for, I think it was length more than anything else. We wanted texture and we wanted length. So we wanted the flavor to stick around on your palate beyond that last sip and not just vanish instantaneously. And I think balancing that was probably the biggest challenge, especially when you're kind of trying to tame together these three spirits that have a tendency to want to be very different. But thankfully, all three of these whiskeys had great length and substance already. So it was just a matter of balancing the ratios correctly. And when we found that right combination, I seem to recall it being like that chocolatey note that really hammered it home. That was what we were, and that a lot of that was coming from the Root Shoot single malt. So balance like where that was coming in and how much of it to use, I think was kind of the last puzzle piece.
Yeah, our barrel was a lot of if I recall correctly, it was like cherry cheesecake kind of vibes. And
interesting.
that red fruit, kind of creamy, like.
I was gonna say there's definitely, it's like I said, like it's more of a milk chocolate. It's not just like straight up chocolate. There's a bit of a creamy element to it. So that
Yeah.
must be coming from what you guys contributed. That's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, Mile High had that like deep chocolate, a little citrus. Root Shoot had this like grassy, peppery, bright lemon kind of thing going on. And in all of these ratios, it just came across as something that was complex, never really fought against itself, always lifted each other up. But it had a like really unique first part of the palate, a long developing mid palate with a heavy oily finish, and it just always surprises you. So every time you come back, it's a little different. And adding water makes a huge difference too, because there's so many different oils present in this whiskey.
Yeah, it really blooms with a little drop of water. Mitch likes to look at whiskey and spirits tasting like music, which I absolutely love. And we found with this blend that like no part of the track disappoints. Like
No.
from intro to verse to chorus to bridge to outro, it's just hidden all the way through.
No dead space, no snares out of place. It all just kind of flows nicely, and it leads you to the end in a gentle repose. It's
A certified banger, if you will.
I was gonna say,
some
wow,
would say.
I love that. Can you print that on the label? Because like I would buy based on that. Oh my gosh, yeah, no, this is incredible. This is such a unique kind of twist on everything we've tried tonight. Obviously, you know, this is the spirit. I feel like that it's kind of the thing. I feel like I see it a lot in Colorado, whether it's breweries or things like that. I see a lot of collaboration. I like to see lots of, you know, it doesn't feel like it's less of a competition and more of the fact like, hey, we are the ones that are bringing Colorado spirits or Colorado beer, you know, to the mainstream. Why not work together? That's just kind of the vibe I've gotten kind of across the board. Even like with some of the single malt distilleries I've had in Colorado, they are so appreciative of so many other distilleries. So I feel like that's something that I think is uniquely Colorado. Not to say that everyone else is fighting, but I feel like it feels like a community, and I feel like that is really, really cool. Is there anything else like this in the near future for you guys, like other collaborations like this?
We would definitely like to do more of them. We had a ton of fun putting this one together, and we just love to play and collaborate too. I think one of the reasons that you were kind of talking about like competition versus collaboration, you know, a lot of the distilleries here, especially like the smaller to mid-sized distilleries, aren't really butting heads with each other necessarily. Like we're all doing we're in our own lanes. We've all got something unique that we're trying to bring to the table, or just like a unique goal that's like a little bit different from what everyone else is doing. So you can really combine, you know, all of those different colors into a really harmonious finished product, because we're not combining, you know, the same and same. We're meshing together a lot of different things that all have their own strengths, and that's what made this project so cool. And we'd absolutely love to do more of them.
Yeah. We regularly do partner with local wineries and breweries, but yeah, if you're a distillery in Colorado and you want to do something fun together, you know how to reach us. You can find our website. You can let us know.
Yeah, all that will be in the description below. So if anyone wants to reach out to the guys, I totally support that, because I want to try it. Well, that concludes our flight today. But tell us what you guys have been up to. I mean, you guys, like I said, I was trying to go on your Instagram, trying to find like, because so many other distilleries only post like once or twice a week at the most. You guys are very, very active. So explain, it's 2026, right? What is in store for this year for fans of Barrel and Branch, or Branch and Barrel? Sorry, I saw B&B. I'm like, oh wait, I got it mixed up.
We're definitely trying to put a little bit more order to the chaos that has historically been our special release schedule.
Okay.
We got a lot of bottles. You can see some blank spaces behind as we're just refilling some things and replacing some things, but there's a lot of bottles up there during our open hours, and we are just trying to make a little bit more sense of how we're presenting that to everybody. But at the same time, we've put a lot of things into barrels that need to come out. So we're trying to make sure we're releasing things when it makes sense too. Our latest greatest for this year, we did a really cool series of beer barrel finishes with some awesome local breweries. We worked with 222 Brewing Company. I think Aurora or Centennial. It's one of the two. They're close by to us.
I think it's Aurora.
In some city lines that are very close together. But 222 Brewing, awesome folks. I think Mitch is going to go see if he can find those bottles. We did one with. Oh, here we are. So this was one we called Granny Gear, which is named after the beer that the barrel of the whiskey was finished with. It is a Belgian ice cream beer. essentially.
Oh.
So it's like a Belgian strong ale that was aged or brewed with Moose Tracks Denali ice cream.
Oh, I
So that's
see.
a really unique beer, and I might be butchering that explanation. You can find it on their website. So if you want to read what it actually is,
I'm sold.
check
I'm
that
sold
out. I
on
did
your
my best.
description.
But that one's fantastic. We did one with Elizabeth Brewing Company, who are pretty close to us. They're really awesome as well. Elizabeth, Colorado. That's actually where our rack house is. So that one's pretty close to home for us. This was another one we named after the beer, Bumbling Around. It was a horchata white stout. So we
Oh,
finished in
interesting.
that barrel. That one's really awesome. It tastes pretty much how it sounds like it would. It's just like a horchata flavor bomb.
Yeah, they used our cinnamon maple vanilla barrels to make the white horchata stout. And we put that cinnamon maple vanilla whiskey right back into it. So it is like winter holiday in a glass.
Oh my gosh, that sounds incredible.
And then this was Denver Beer Company and Los Dos Brewing, both of whom are pretty close to us. We called this one Pub Crawl. Both imperial stouts. We finished a high rye bourbon in the imperial stout barrels. That used to be our honey whiskey in three-way barrels.
I think it was bourbon and honey.
Bourbon and honey. We do a lot of barrel trading. So this one was really awesome as well, like heavy chocolate vibes. And, you know, we've kind of tried to switch up the artwork a little bit for each of those as well. So it just gave us a really fun way to get some new aesthetics out there.
Yeah, we put out a vodka as well.
Oh, really? Well, I was going to say before, I like the artwork. It kind of feels like video game characters. Like it almost feels like it's kind of that aesthetic. It's like, oh, there's just something about the logos. They feel like collect them all. Is that his idea?
Well, I actually draw the artwork for a lot of the labels,
Oh,
not
really?
for
Oh my
100% of them, but
Sure.
Skill Check and then those three were my art. So I just either take the inspirations that people give me, or they let me have free reign and I do something crazy, and that's kind of how we come up with these.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? That's even better, because I was like, you know, I mean, especially in today, like, let's be real, a lot of brands are using AI art. So I feel like having someone actually creating those labels is a big win in the industry. And I was saying, like, I love the labels; they're really cool, and I hope other people appreciate them as well. Because, like, I would buy them for the label.
We are kind of working to make some of our more special releases a little bit more special with the aesthetics we're using on the label, and we do hope, of course, that the artwork is collectible. We've done our creative director is also a graphic designer, and he's done a couple of our more unique releases too. We did our first 7-year with him, then we did a peach rye beer finish barrel, both of which have gone down in legend as far as our portfolio goes. And so he brought his own unique flavor to those. So we're definitely always trying to kind of keep it as fresh as possible with the artwork, at least on the special release side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm a big fan. Support local art. Like, that's kind of the thing. I think that's a Colorado thing as well, just like local artisans. And I feel like it's such a big part of Colorado culture. And I love that you guys are doing that. I did want to ask one last thing. So I'm noticing Mitch's shirt, the Shaded Grove. I noticed you guys posted 8 hours ago on Instagram the Shaded Grove Branch and Barrel release. This is a 7.5-year-old cast strength release that's available at the tasting room. Can you tell us a little bit about that for people that may be visiting the distillery?
Yeah. So the Shaded Grove is actually the name of our kind of VIP members club.
Okay.
So every year we will open up seats for people to come join and have some special like VIP experiences. One of which is that they get to pick one of our single barrels for the year. And so we'll bring out 4 or 5 different casks, let them try them all, and then have a consensus vote on which cask is going to become the new Shaded Grove single barrel for the year. All of their names go on the back of it, and so they're immortalized in the bottle. But it is one of the few single barrels that neither of us select. It is specifically crowdsourced by 35 to 40 people that will vote on their favorite cask of ours, and that will become the new Shaded Grove release.
This one was nearly unanimous too. It was closer than the previous one that we did with the club the year before. I think it was like 75 or 80% all voted for the same barrel.
Yeah.
Out of the 4.
Yeah, we presented 4 this time.
Tasted. Yeah.
Some of them, like this is the oldest release we've ever done. This 7.5 year, like you said. We've been around for 11 as of this year. This September will be 11 years, and most of our young casks were sold off early on as we were getting our footing. And so we don't have a lot that are being able to hit up to that 7-8 year mark. and they very wisely chose the highest proof and longest age of the series.
Of course.
I knew they would, but we had a few other bangers. The 106 proof barrel almost won.
Mhm.
That was our number 2 right behind it. It was
And it was not, or admittedly, it was not close at all, but it was the second choice.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
but it was funny seeing it happen because everyone was like, "Oh, that one, that one, that one." Then they tried this cast.
Like, oh no,
No, that one.
Yeah, I've been there with a barrel pick. Once you know, you know. Like even though things have been incredible before, once you get to that one that's the right one, you can't go back from that. That's awesome. How does someone get involved in, like, if they are local to the area? How does someone join something like the Shaded Grove?
So it is currently a fairly exclusive program. We had 40 seats this year. We basically do signups at the end of the year. We had a lot of re-signers, so we didn't open up a tremendous amount of new seats this time around, but it's a year-long program. You get a lot of awesome discounts. You get completely customized merchandise. You get an event every quarter. We do the barrel pick every year. We let them vote on the cocktails that go onto one of our seasonal menus.
Discounts.
The discounts. The other 2 events are kind of currently a mystery for this year, just in case anyone's listening.
Sorry, no spoilers here, but I appreciate you guys tuning in.
But it's a cool way. It's a cool way to give some ownership to really loyal supporters of the brand, and we obviously really appreciate everybody that supports this brand, but especially those who participate in the Shaded Grove, because you actually get to be a part of the Branch and Barrel story. You get to make some of the most pivotal decisions we make on a year, whether that's a menu release or whatever house single barrel we're going to have available for whatever period of time it is available for. The other events were awesome last year too. The extras that we did like a grain to glass tasting and educational experience where they actually got to like try the grains and the ferments and the low wines and the high wines. And that's a really unique experience because most distilleries aren't going to have those things available to taste. So that was something that Mitch put together and led that was absolutely awesome. They get some, unique bottles as well. They get, I guess we can reveal the one we're doing this quarter since we've already told them about it.
Yeah, that's true.
All you, since that was your awesome idea.
This quarter, we're bringing out some casks that haven't been bottled, obviously, because they're still in casks. But of some stuff that doesn't get released very much. So like 4-grain, a high rye, we're going to do like possibly a cold brew wheat barrel, possibly a rye honey, and just like some interesting casks that just don't really get released very often that they can come pick their favorite and get a 1-of-1 bottle of it.
Right out of the barrel.
Wow. That's such an awesome experience, and I loved seeing. I think it's kind of translated over from like wineries, because I feel like wine clubs have always been a thing, but seeing that transition to the spirits world and just seeing people just have their favorites. I mean, I'm a little jealous because I'm in Southern California. We don't really have much of that with whiskey, but I'm seeing it from distilleries across Kentucky and Colorado. Like, I feel like if you are a super fan of a brand, you can get such exclusive access through these clubs. And I feel like I want to see more of it. I feel like, yes, it's exclusive, but like, I feel like if you have a brand that you absolutely love and you want to support, this is the way to do it.
Well, and something Josh was mentioning that like I want to touch a little bit on is it literally shapes the way that we approach things. The class that he was talking about, the grain to glass sort of event where they got to try every aspect of the whiskey, it was so well received, and they thought it was so cool that we made it part of our marketing in our like local markets where we're selling bottles. We have a sensory kit that we put on the table now to be able to show those things off. And so like every event we do with the Shaded Grove, every feedback we get from them helps to shape things that we're doing in the company on a regular basis or during events. It literally does affect the trajectory of our company. And so it is giving them a little ownership in a literal sense because it helps direct us on what we should be doing. Their input is crucial to our future.
Yeah, VIP club and kind of low-key board of directors.
I love it. Well, this was so much fun. I'm so glad we finally had a chance to try these. I guess last question for you guys is like, what's next? So I'm going to be putting this episode out towards the end of March. Hopefully, fingers crossed. What can people get excited for coming up in 2026? Like, what's to come? Not don't like reveal anything too revealing, but like anything you want to tease? Like let the folks know what's coming next.
We could talk about it.
We can give you kind of a snapshot of the next few months of releases. So we've got some really cool stuff in the works for the spring and summertime. We've been doing a lot of, if you've followed us in the past, we've dabbled in some really experimental clear spirits in addition to our, whiskey's definitely our bread and butter. It's what we're known for, but we do like to play around on the side. So we've done a Jamaican pot still style rum. We've done a very unique agave spirit that was fermented and distilled with smoked grains. We did a really unique gin that was distilled to a lower proof than one would expect. So it's got a lot more of the like base grain character in it. And so we've been barrel aging a lot of our clear spirits, and they're at the point where a lot of them are ready to be released. And that coincided beautifully with the season that we like to think that they're appropriate to come out. So we've got a barrel-aged version of our Snowmelt Gin coming very soon that we're really excited about, and that was a new charred oak barrel as well.
Number 4 char, but never been used.
So we definitely lean more into kind of the Ginsky kind of style, where it's like a pretty heavily barrel-aged gin. We've got a barrel-aged version of our agave spirit coming out. We've got a barrel-aged version of our rum coming out. So there's going to be a lot of really cool things you can enjoy over the summertime that are kind of like, we think they're seasonally appropriate.
Yeah. And then a few returning favorites in like the fall and winter, as well as a return from the peas.
Yeah, we've got Peas Please making a triumphant return with brand new label art.
Talk about the Pinot.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let you chat through that one.
Yeah, he's letting me do that because it's convoluted and confusing.
Correct.
He's like, you're gonna be contacted by our lawyers. I'm just kidding.
No.
If we have to, we'll just censor. We'll just bleep every other word in this chat. We'll treat it like the Epstein files.
Yeah, just black out our screen. It's fine.
Redacted.
No, we worked with what is the name of the company? The RCA.
Oh yeah, the Research Chefs Association.
That's it. I was like, I remember the acronym. I can't remember exactly what it means. And they picked a barrel that was very unique of ours, and we have some of it that we're going to be releasing in the fall. But it was a 3-way cask, which was our spiced maple cask, which was our cinnamon maple vanilla finished bourbon. We actually gave it to a local winery. That was not Purgatory. It was the wine barrel.
Wine Group?
No, the wine barrel.
Wine barrel.
Yeah, we gave it to the wine barrel. They aged a Pinot Noir in that cask. They gave it back, and then we put bourbon into it, and we've been letting it sit for a year and a half.
Yeah, that was definitely one of our longer aged projects.
And so it's got this like dried red fruit, cinnamon maple, like brown sugar bourbon. Unique. It's insane, and it's so good. And we're going to be bringing that out close to Thanksgiving, and it's going to be a real good time.
It was good enough to pique the interest of people who work with flavor science.
Oh, okay.
As their literal jobs.
Literal jobs, yeah.
Well, that's so exciting. If you guys want to follow on Instagram, they are BAB Distilling on Instagram. Is there anywhere else that you recommend people follow? Because I love your Instagram. I literally I'm so excited to see everything that you guys are posting. Is that the best place for people to follow you guys?
If you do the TikTok, we are also on the TikTok.
Okay.
We also do post on Instagram and Facebook as well. But if you're trying to find like our day-to-day kind of content, that's definitely the best place to find us. That's typically where we do our release information before anywhere else too, or like our sneak previews, our teases, the asinine videos that Mitch and I make together. You can find those on Instagram as well.
Yeah, if you're no nonsense, you don't want to see the silly content that's just like out of this world, like us washing each other's hands, then I would recommend joining our newsletter, and you can do that through our website. On the homepage, it'll ask you if you want to join the newsletter. If you do, we send one out twice a month, and that's a much more concise, cut down kind of snapshot of what we have going on.
Less profanity, etc.
Certainly less profanity. Certainly a lot less laughs. So if you're into good humor and some weird throwbacks to old content and just fun, follow the Instagram or follow us on TikTok or Facebook, because you'll see the funnies better that way.
And if you like and share our absurd content, we'll make more of it.
There you go.
That's a
I'll put all the links to their content, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and their newsletter will be in the description of this live stream. Josh and Mitch, thank you guys so much for coming on. It's been an absolute blast. I love having you guys on for a second time. I can't wait to hear what's next. If you guys ever want to come back on the channel when there's new releases, just reach out to me. Like, I'm absolutely excited to feature your content. Your whiskey is great. I mean, I wouldn't say this to everyone. Like, the full disclosure, sometimes I'll have people on, I'll be like, oh, well, that was great, bye, and then, never again. You guys are really putting out some really incredible whiskeys, and I'm so excited to see what's in the future for Branch and Barrel. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Clifton. That means a lot. We really appreciate it. If you hit us up every 6 months or so, you can almost guarantee we're going to have something wild and whimsical in the pipeline. So we'd be thrilled to share it.
And if you ever make it out to Colorado, let us know. We'll bring you in for the VIP treatment for sure.
I love it. Absolutely. I'll let you know. Well, thank you all so much for watching. This has been so much fun. Like I said, if you're watching live, say hello in the chat. But if you're watching the replay, I read all the comments. I'll respond to them. If you guys have any questions, I know since we couldn't do this live, we couldn't really answer any questions in the real time. Leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to reach out to these guys and just see if there's any questions you guys have, see if they can answer them. And yeah, I'll be in touch because I have a feeling that people are going to have some questions and hopefully some excitement for joining you guys at the tasting room and trying some of these really cool releases. So
if you do send us questions, we'll answer them on our social media for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have an info email, and that goes in front of both of us. So if it's a more like business question, send it to the info email.
Awesome. Again, all the info for that will be down in the description below. Ow, I just hit my knuckles. That just shows how good that whiskey was. It's high proof, got me good. All right, cheers, guys. Thank you so much. For those of you watching, I will see you guys next Thursday for another live stream. Stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and make sure to follow these guys on all of their socials because I do, and they really put out some awesome stuff. So cheers. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next live stream. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Bytes. I'm Clifton, and thank you for tuning in to another Thursday night live stream. Today's going to be really special. It's going to be a first for the channel, which is actually an Israeli whiskey. I've venture outside of bourbon every now and then, and I'm learning to like world whiskeys in general. So as soon as I heard about Milk and Honey, I had to buy it and try it out. Fortunately, I had some connections over there through Impex Beverages, and we have some really special guests for you guys tonight. So I see a few people hanging out in the chat. Thank y'all for pre-gaming a bit. I should have been pre-gaming, but good to see all of y'all here. I did ask Patreon for some questions that we're going to mention later in the show for these guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guests. Please welcome from Milk and Honey Whiskey, Tal, and from Impex Beverages, Joshua Hatton. What's up, guys?
Hello there.
Good to have you on. And I mentioned this earlier, but Tal is joining us live from Israel right now, where it's, I believe, 4 a.m.
No, it's 5 a.m.
5 a.m. Okay, a little better, but also I'm super, super appreciative for you to come on and be a part of this because I know a lot of the people here in the chat are not that familiar with M&H, and I think this is going to be kind of a really cool intro to a world whiskey they may not have tried before. So I guess if you guys could just tell these guys a little bit about yourself and how you, I guess, got into what you're doing.
Joshua, you start. I'm still warming up.
Okay.
Do you have your pint of Guinness at the ready?
There we go.
Okay, good. That's a small pint. Either that or your hands have just gotten very large. So Joshua Hatton with Impex Beverages, and I'm the National Sales Director with the import company. And we've we started many years back importing mostly Scotch whiskeys like Isle of Skye blend. That was the first brand that we started with. And then distilleries like Kilchoman jumped on, and we've got Glenallachie, for Scotch whiskeys, and Port Ascaig. And then we started looking at world whiskeys. So we've got Penderyn on board as well. And now our good friends here at M&H Distillery. It's, for us as importers, we focus on, I wouldn't say smaller brands, but brands that are independent and are of the same mind as us, that are just looking to make great product and put it in front of people with passion. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So from my side, I think I started, guess around almost 30 years ago in the industry. First of all, as a little bit as a bartender. Tel Aviv is actually, it's a very rough night tonight in Tel Aviv. There was a terrorist act in one of the bars. Was shooting in a bar.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, they're still looking for the terrorist. Usually it ends much quicker here. But so I started off as a bartender, and then learned a little bit of winemaking, but really fell in love with the harder stuff. So I started working in, I think it was in one of the big companies. It was Pernod Ricard, and then Diageo for a long time. And then, of course, just met a few crazy guys that they actually blame me for getting them to fall in love with whiskey. and what happens with few guys that sit together with few bottles of whiskey, usually it ends up saying, let's open the best bar in the world. So this time it was, let's open a distillery in Tel Aviv, which is even crazier than opening the best bar in the world. So I think that it started off from there. So I'm 50 years old, living in just outside Tel Aviv, and working in the M&H distillery.
That's awesome. So you've been with the company since it started?
Yeah, I've been in the company since it started. I was off for like two or 3 years, and then came back. But I was there with the first meeting ever.
That's awesome. So for those of you who don't know, Milk and Honey, M&H is short for Milk and Honey. They were actually the very first whiskey distillery in all of Israel. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's the first and the biggest.
Wow. So what was the reasoning? I mean, other than, drinking a few bottles with some friends, like what, beyond being the first, like what drove you to really, what did you feel was missing in the whiskey market?
So I think that we actually saw a little bit of the craft movement around the world, that, you don't have to be a bourbon or a Scotch or an Irish whiskey. And we saw the guys from Penderyn, for example, from Wales. And first of all, for Israelis, you just have to say to an Israeli, if you want an Israeli to do something, just tell him he can't. And we'll try to do that. And this is Gal, the owner, the founder, and the guy behind it, and now is the current CEO. He's like that. He wanted to be a pioneer. So he said, all right, I'm brewing beer at home. Let's do distillation, and let's do it in much bigger scale. But yeah, let's be a pioneer. Let's be the first one. And of course, why not? We can do that. And then we were trying to look at what is different in Israel, what is different for us, and try to get our DNA.
Yeah. So in terms of having product on the market, I know it's relatively new to the US. Were there other releases before you guys entered the US market?
So it was actually, it was hand by hand, it was step by step, because we just started, this meeting that I was talking about was in 2012, but we actually started constructions in Tel Aviv 2014. And just a little bit before that, the end of 2014, Tomer, the head distiller, together with the late Dr. Jim Swan, that was our first consultant and master distiller, actually the guy behind Kavalan, Amrut, Kilchoman, Penderyn. You have some more in the portfolio, Joshua. I think it's Golden Corollas as well.
Yeah, Golden Corollas. Yep.
And
Ardent American a little bit as well. Yeah.
Spirit of Yorkshire, I think.
So
he was a busy guy. When he came here, and the first distillation, first cask ever made was actually released after 3 years. It was at 2017. So we had one whiskey, but then we started distilling at the distillery. So our first products were just a new make or White Dog, and then young single malts, because for us, even after 5 or 6, 10 months in the climate of Israel, the climate of Tel Aviv, just the distillery is 6 minutes walk from the beach of the Mediterranean.
I was going to say,
beach.
I've heard it's very hot and humid there.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where you get, look at Joshua. He was so we have very rapid maturation. So we had released some young single malts, first of all, to show our ability of aging. And the second thing was just for cash flow. And then I think that this was the first editions we actually exported, but America came like less than a year after that. I was meeting Joshua in Manhattan, and we had some tastings with the very young stuff. And then you cannot call it a young single malt if it's not a Scotch or a bourbon. If it was just 2 days maybe in oak, you have to call it whiskey. So
Gotcha.
we released Whiskey in Bloom. It was Joshua came up with the name Whiskey in Bloom, which was a 2-year-old single malt.
Gotcha. You know what's funny is when I asked my patrons before the show for any questions, one of the questions was asking about the Whiskey and Bloom series, and they said they'd heard a lot about that one. So you kind of gave us an overview. That was kind of like the first product that you guys put out. And then now you guys have this incredible lineup that we're going to be tasting through here today. I want to get something in my glass. What about you guys? I mean, I know it's 5 a.m., but you don't have to. There you go.
I just finished the coffee, so...
Nice. So this is the classic cask. I guess this is kind of the entry level to the brand, I would say. Can you tell us a little bit about this release and how it came to be?
So yeah, I think that even with the Whiskey and Blooms, we had 2 types. One of them was lightly peated, and the other one was the Whiskey and Bloom, the double cask or something like that. So for us, the house style for the core range is very balanced, and we were looking for a whiskey with the classic. We were looking for a whiskey that will be, first of all, in the opening level, something that can just discover our house style using our special cut. We if you can see the still behind me, the line arms goes very deep down, like 45 degrees down, and we cut very high and very short. So the new make is between 80 and 70%. That's it. Not much tails. So you get a very light and very clean spirit. Of course, we lack some of the oils in the tails, but you get the oils back from the line arms because you don't have any reflux. This works great with bourbon casks because it's fruity. It's a little bit some pastry notes on the new make, and when you age it in a bourbon cask, you get the whole texture and some, the sweetness and the vanilla and everything. We added some around 15% of STR casks. STR cask is a cask that usually was a red wine cask, but it was shaved, toasted, and recharred from inside. That means STR. Developed originally.
I didn't know what that stood for. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So shaved, toasted, and recharred. It was originally developed for Kavalam, so hot climates again, because in the first year it gives you a lot of characteristics. It's just spreads, liquid goes inside the wood more and extracts a lot of color, tannins, fruitiness. So it gives us a bit of seasoning to the blend. So around 80% of ex-bourbon, something like 15-16% of STR cask, and just a drop of new oak, virgin oak, just to connect everything. So Tomer calls it a table whiskey, because if you put it on table, everyone can enjoy it for the broader probably crowd. I call it a table whiskey because yesterday we had a basketball game, Tel Aviv against Barcelona. We won by 20 points, and it was on the table and it was finished. So it's another table.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Meet us like that. That's awesome. I see a few people in the chat. Do have some questions? By the way, hi everyone in the chat. I see all of our mods are here. Our Byte Club members are here. Whiskey Mountains, Adriana, she says, so exciting to have such unique guests on and to hear this story. I think so too. I'm so glad that they joined me here tonight. And then she went on to ask, what's the altitude there? I was wondering if there's difference in air pressure and pushing into the barrel.
Good question. Yeah.
So it's one question I had, whether how we can say. So when Jim Swan came here to Israel, and as we said, we talked a little bit about the distilleries he worked with. So he was a busy guy. He didn't take every project. So, but when he came here and he saw that in 450 kilometers from the northern point to the southern point, you have 5 climate zones, and Tel Aviv is 0 elevations, just
Oh wow.
on the
Okay.
beach, but then 45 minutes from Tel Aviv, you go up to almost, actually, it was higher than I thought. We have a little warehouse at 50 meters above sea level, but Jerusalem is actually 900 meters above sea level. So it's only 45 minutes, and you're up on the mountain, and then another
Wow.
hour, you're in minus 428 meters below sea level at the lowest place in the world, at the Dead Sea. And we
Right.
actually age whiskeys there. So if you talk about air pressure, this is the place for air pressure, right?
Sounds like it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I guess let's go to give this a nose. I see, Joshua, you've been smelling it a good bit. What do you like about the nose of this one?
Me?
No, or either of you.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because I had been nosing it, and I'd also been cheating and taking sips as well.
It's all good.
It's one of the things that really struck me early on about M&H was how full of character their new make was. So fruity, so rich, and so mouth coating. And what I like is all of those characteristics come through even after the bourbon cask maturation, the STR cask maturation. So I'm still getting a lot of that fruity spirit character, and then you've got the bourbon wood that's just kind of supporting it with a bit of vanilla, a bit of spice coming through with that STR cask. And I get this sort of like pear and apple orchard, like sweet apple notes in there. And and it is like Tal said, this is one that I put downstairs, so when people come over, this is the one you open, right? It's the session
Gotcha.
whiskey.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think like you said earlier, like as a table whiskey, it is very like agreeable, like even for someone that may be new to whiskey. I think on the nose, it's like you get that sweet like vanilla, I think, up front. But then on the palate, it's a little less sweet than it smells, but it goes in the fruity direction, and I like that. I like that on the palate. It makes it unique.
And then you add some of the spiciness from the SDRs, and I think you can get a little bit of spiciness in almost every whiskey you get from our portfolio. And again, there's another thing, the mouth coating thing, and the upper part of your palate, you get some of the oiliness and the body of this whiskey, and it's great, and it goes with this 46% alcohol. So it's non-chill filtration, no chill filtration, no color additives. We don't need that. We have the sun. So, and I think that this is at 46. If you're not used to drinking 46, it's very light. It's very drinkable. I think that one of the first time I actually launched it, and we call ourselves the distillery with the worst timing in the world, because we were actually waiting to launch whiskey, and finally the first cask were over 3 years, and we can call it a single malt whiskey because we followed the Scottish regulations. And we did a launching at the beginning of January 2020 in Amsterdam, and then Paris, and then the world shut down. So yeah, we had the worst. We had the worst timing. But in one of those launchings, we did, not because I wanted. I love blind tasting, but I don't like it with my stuff because then I'm not sure. And so it was. We had this in Holland, I think. In one of the stores, they asked me, what do you think about this whiskey style? I said, maybe if you can compare it to something in Scotland, it's probably a Highland or something like that. And then, okay, they went and brought a 10-year-old Glenmorangie and just went to the back. We did a blind tasting. And now the Glenmorangie is 40%. So of course you feel that, but then the body on this one was much thicker, much rounder, and then after, even without water, after a few minutes, few seconds even, Glenmorangie started to go down because the air just took a lot of things out, and this one just started to open. So I knew that we did something okay if we can stand shoulder to shoulder with such a fabulous whiskey, famous whiskey like Glenmorangie. So yeah, this
Yeah,
is our
it's
stuff.
That's awesome because I tasted all of these just a little bit before the stream, and the note that I wrote beside this was malt forward, similar to Glenmorangie. I was like, what the heck? That's crazy. But yeah, I think it is stylistically similar to what you would expect from a Highland, but I do think it has a lot more fruitiness at the palate that I'm used to from most Highlands, and that's from those wine casks, I believe.
I think it's even more from the bourbon cask. It starts from the new make. The new make is different. New make as itself at 73% when we take it out, when we cut the heart, it's drinkable at 73% alcohol. Swear to God, it's drinkable. It's not because I'm an alcoholic, and it is very, very, very sweet as a new make.
Wow, I think 78%. So the highest proof thing I've tried is there's an Obtainium light whiskey that I have that's like 150 proof. So I think that sounds a little bit lower than what you're talking about. That's crazy. But yeah, I appreciate. But the thing is, coming from the bourbon world, which is kind of like how I got my start with this, I got kind of so used to extremely high proof cask strength releases. It wasn't until later I took a step back with like Scotch and learned to appreciate things in the 40 to 45, that range. And I appreciate them so much more now than I did originally. Because I was like, before I was like, what is this water? But now I'm like, this one's really, really beautiful at that proof.
Thank you. And again, it's the same thing for me when, we're tasting from the cask, doing the blends. So of course we fill the cask at 64.5, and then because of our weather, it's always going to go up. And during the summer, the ABV goes down because you lose more alcohol because it's so humid in Tel Aviv. And during the winter, we lose more water, so the ABV goes up. But all in all, it's going to go up. So eventually, I think when we empty the cask after 4 years or something like that, now we're getting more and more to 4 and up. We are going to get something like 67, 66.8 in the cask. So, and sometimes we can see that if we're sending samples to America and we ask them, they're picking a cask, and I asked Joshua, what's the ABV they want? Original one. Mostly it's original one. So it's, you like the strong stuff.
Yeah, but I think I've learned to, I guess, manage my expectation when it comes to world whiskey, because I think American whiskey is kind of the dominant one that is those like really high proof releases, at least in my experience. Zofer in the chat says Tal saying all the stats we like: no chill filtering, decent ABV, and no added color. Yes, agreed. Those are all good things to hear. So I guess we're ready to move on to the next one. Which one are we doing next?
I think let's do the Element red wine cask.
Yes. So this is the bottle for that one. By the way, I like the bottle design. It's super unique. What was kind of the inspiration behind these? I noticed like the box it ships in is also very like slim. So it definitely stands out on the shelf.
We were just looking, just checking out all kinds of bottles, and started with the design. And then we needed to actually produce our own bottles. We just like the feeling in the hand. It looks like a real whiskey bottle, and it was great to hold it and pour it. So I think, and now it's our shape and our design. So
right,
it
definitely stands out
because
yeah. So this one actually, I was talking to Sam a bit before this. He said this one is now available in Costco's across California. Is it just California that it's launched in, or is it available at Costco's at other states as well?
It's not this one, I think.
Yeah, it's not this one. The one he's referring to is actually this one here. This is the Elements sherry cask.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so this is the one that you'll find in a host of Costco's right now, but the red wine is different.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, yeah, I see that now in his email. But they just recently, the sherry cask ended up in Costco's across California, MSRP of about $50. I have the list in the description in the comments for you guys. If you guys are in the area and you want to pick it up, those are the stores that should be getting it here soon if they don't already have it. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for that one. But let's talk about this one. So this one is, you said it's a red wine cask.
Yeah, this one is a part of the Element series, which we have 3 whiskeys in that. Peated one, which is a very lightly peated sherry, like we talked about from the Costco, which is not a sherry bomb. It's kind of an old style sherry, very balanced, and the red wine, which is not going to be very winey. so if we have the one which is a table whiskey like the classic, then we were looking for three that everyone can find something he likes. And we did whiskeys that we actually like to drink. And I think that we don't like very winey whiskeys. So this was the hardest whiskey to make, and I think it's the most complex one because, of course, you have sherry kraut and you have peated krauts. But red wine, you need to make something that is not going to be overwhelming by the wine casks. The Element series is based on 50% is based on the same casks as the classic. That means ex-bourbon, STR, and a drop of a new oak or virgin oak. And then we add another element. So here you have 50% of red wine casks from wineries across Israel. So it's kosher wines. We are a kosher distillery. It's not very hard for us to be kosher because there's no whiskey production. No, there's no whiskey production in during the Bible time. So there's not a lot of regulations. So it's different.
There we go.
But when we're using wine casks like sherry, like red wine or cognac, everything from grapes, those has to be kosher. But either way, we have like a 3,000-year-old wine culture, even older, and we have, again, different terroirs, different climate zones, and the wines are developing differently here. But I think when the time passes, we discover that we like Carignan as a grape variety, Carignan wine casks. More and more, it's a very Mediterranean one. So this is a maybe one step deeper than the classic, a little bit darker, and I guess you get some fruitiness here. And the finish is dry, almost like red wine cask, almost like a red wine.
Yeah, I've just been nosing it for a minute. I'm getting like sort of like a candied apple, like not necessarily apple itself, but like the red candy shell that's on like candied apple. It smells very, very sweet. I'm excited to finally to give it a try.
When Tal and the team first told us about the Elements range and what would be in it, this was the one that made me nervous the most, because most whiskeys, malt whiskeys, when they're matured in red wine casks, they tend to taste like high octane red wine rather than a whiskey, right? The whiskiness kind of goes away. And in speaking with Tomer, because Tal, you had said it, this was very hard to do because Tomer had that same fear. But this doesn't taste like high octane red wine. You get the fruit, you get the dryness, but it doesn't taste like wine at all. It's still milk and honey.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a lot sweeter on the nose than on the palate. On the palate, I'm still getting the fruitiness, but there's almost like in the finish, I'm getting kind of like a minty, kind of like sort of like a menthol bit on the finish.
The funny thing is that you get some oak notes, but it's like you're drinking a Rioja wine from Spain, or you get it's like a wine oak and not a whiskey oak, or kind of trying to describe it.
Yeah. Oh, that's to me, that's definitely my alley. Like I do like a good sherry bomb every now and then, like that is kind of dominated by those wines, but sometimes the subtleness is just as enjoyable. Proof wise, is this the same? I guess I have the bottle here.
Yep.
46%.
Yeah.
So same as the other release.
Yeah, the core range is going to be that, and then when we go climb up to the Apex series, this is where we go a little bit crazy. I think the first Apex we actually did was a white wine cask, a Chardonnay cask, and we stopped diluting it. The strength we like it, 61.2, and then we understood it's probably going to be too much for the regular crowd, but most of
bring
the
it on. Well, I guess a good question is because I've never really done much researching into it, but what is the whiskey market in Israel? Like, are people like whiskey drinkers there? Are they more wine drinkers? Kind of like, what's the norm like for just in general?
So I think around 40% of the population is actually drinking. So if you talk about religious guys, the religious Jews, they are drinkers, but I don't think their wives are drinking. And of course, Muslims don't drink. So all in all, Israel is the whiskey is growing all the time. We are a whiskey country, even though 8 months of the year is hot. It's too hot, but we are still whiskey drinkers. I think I'm not sure about the current situation, but usually, and I think the last few years, we were the #1 per capita of Irish whiskey consumption.
Oh, really?
Because we
Interesting.
drink it in chasers like that, you know. And
Mhm.
but you should ever seen in your life people drinking cognac in chasers, only in Israel. So this is the way we drink. But so yeah, lots of beers because it's hot. Arak,
As I
you
said,
know, the
definitely some
anise, and
highballs too, maybe.
no, this didn't catch yet. Gin tonic, yes, but
Okay.
highballs not yet. Beers, wines, of course. Yeah, we have a lot of wines here. We're drinking a lot of wines, but whiskey is going there, and I think the most evolving category is single malts. The single malt. So yeah, and of course it's Tel Aviv, and then the rest of the country is a little bit different. But everywhere you see in Tel Aviv, you go into a bar, just a regular bar, you see more single malts than you can see in Scotland.
Wow. Well, I guess, I mean, even though you guys had like an unfortunate launch at the 2020, I mean, at least you guys kind of had the, you know, the I guess I don't know what the best way to put it, but like the potential to, you know, be, I mean, you guys are the biggest, you're the largest and the first, and you guys are, I mean, just, I've seen your products pop up on shelves all over Southern California in the past year or two. And I see it at, you know, so many stores. I think people are really curious about trying other world whiskeys, like I kind of alluded to earlier. And I think it's such a unique experience and look into maybe, you know, just a hint of, you know, the culture. If you can't quite travel there, especially during the pandemic, you maybe get a little taste of, you know, what it's like.
And yeah, I think that our size of distillery, we're not that big, but we have to put some liquid on lips. And during the pandemic, it was very hard for us because we travel a lot. We travel, we get the bottles, we let the people drink, and then when someone was sitting at home, and we all thought that the world is ending, you know, the whole world thought, and your kids were home, and your wife were home, and everyone, and you needed to drink, so you go online. You didn't look for an Israeli whiskey. You looked for something you knew. And so it was very hard for us when the whole thing started. But I think we did one of the first online tasting ever. So we did everything very fast, like the vaccinations here. We did everything very fast. And now when we came back, it's amazing. And, you know, been to whiskey shows, just flew to some countries. We just came back from London. We won Brand Innovators of the Year at the World Whiskey Awards.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And, you know, we went out next door, had a pint, and instead of celebrating, we thought two things. One, why didn't we win the best whiskey in the world? Because we were nominated. And second thing was we are a brand, because they called us the Brand Innovators of the World. So after 2 years, we have whiskey. We are a brand. And for us, this was really, really crazy. But this whiskey, by the way, the red wine is a whiskey that you need to taste, because as I said, during the pandemic, we grew, and we are now selling in around 30 countries outside Israel, but we are still, people are going to drink the classic. And then of course, if you like sherry, you buy sherry. If you like peated, you're going to buy peated, but red wine is the last one. And since September that we came back to travel and did some tasting, we see more and more that people can, if you tasted some whiskeys in your life, this is more complex whiskey, and all of a sudden you see, okay, we got something here. So this one is, you know, is the one you need to taste to understand, and not only talk about.
Oh yeah, it takes like all of the things that are great about the classic and like kind of adds on to it. Like it's not a totally different whiskey, but to me it's adding a bit more of that character from those casks, and I think that's really good. All right, are we
this
ready?
One's become my favorite in the group. The one that I feared the most ended up being my favorite of their standard line. So I agree with you, Tal. It's people may be hesitant, but once you taste it, you can't untaste it. You can't untaste how good it is.
Agreed. Yeah, it's definitely it stands out. I think, especially being, you know, not only is it, you know, the only time I've ever had Israeli whiskey on my channel, but it holds its own. I honestly think, you know, in a lineup, I would prefer this over several scotches that I have in my collection. So that's really cool. So I'm excited for the next one, because that's the apex one that we've been teasing a little. So this one is the fortified wine cask, 60.4% ABV. So tell us a little bit about that. Is this like a limited release, or is this more of like also part of the core lineup?
So the Apex series is, of course. So we have the bread and butter, which is the core range. So now it's 4 whiskeys, the classic and the 3 elements. We might add another element if we have some more regular casks like STR or port. And then we add another series, which is the fun thing about being a craft distillery, and we call that the result of the never-ending coffee between Tomer and me. The never-ending coffee is we get up in the morning, we meet at the distillery. Usually Tomer gets 3 hours before me because he doesn't like the traffic, and we have our coffee, and then we started thinking about crazy stuff and starting to think about that, and we never finish the coffee. We go into the warehouse and try to pick some casks, and then or just traveling to a winery, or just starting to call someone just to get some more crazy casks. So all of the experiments, the outside the box way of thinking for us is going to be in this series, which is going to be outside the core range. So Apex is going by batches, and even if you have another fortified wine Apex later on, it's not going to be probably not going to be the same cask. We're not going to try to balance it. We're going to let the cask work. So every crazy stuff we're doing is going into this series, like the Dead Sea cask. We're aging at the Dead Sea rum cask. I think the second edition was only 5 casks, 4 Jamaican rum cask and 1 from Havana. White wine. We had a fully matured Chardonnay cask, and we had cognac cask. We had whatever, everything. The pomegranate wine cask. Which one is that one? There's a pomegranate wine cask. Yeah, this is the most crazy one, I think. This one and the Dead Sea, because we have, we use we eat a lot of pomegranates, and it's a part of our culture. We have a pomegranate winery in the Upper Galilee in the mountains, so we just taken their casks. So this was a crazy one as well. The one you're tasting, it's a kind of a port cask, but we don't call it port because it's from Israel. It's not from Portugal. But again, it's a different one because it's from local varieties, which are not the classical, Portuguese port varieties. And it's because it grows up on the mountains, it's kind of a flinty one. So you get some flintiness in it. It's not a peated barley.
Oh, really? I was actually about to ask you that, because I was going to say this nose, like it kind of surprised me. It caught me off guard. To me, it's smoky. It's kind of a good bit smoky.
Yeah. So it's mostly it comes from the wines, because the wines are it's a fortified sweet wine. So that means it's like 18 or 20% alcohol sweet wine that was just fortified and just stopped the fermentation. So we have a lot of the fruit sugar inside the wine, and it was aged for like, I think 3 years before we got it to the distillery. But again, something with this wine is a kind of it's something between a smoke or just a flint of the lighter or something like that, like mineral.
No, I was gonna almost say like this sounds like a bad note, but I don't mean in a bad way. It's almost like a garage, like a car shop kind of note, like motor oil. Does that make sense? Like, it's kind of what I'm getting on it.
I like just that note.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a good note. I can see someone putting that on a bottle and be like, "Yeah, it tastes like motor oil."
Yeah.
But wow,
if you talk about
burnt rubber on sherry, so we can do all of those. Just I would love to do all the real notes we think about the nut. The delicate but rich and all of that. It's going to be great. Motor oil, burnt rubber. Just think of.
Yeah, I mean, I think on palate, it's a little more toned down. To me, it still has a uniqueness. It almost, you mentioned you're using Jamaican rum casks for another project. This almost has that Jamaican rum funk for me. It's just, maybe that's just how I'm interpreting it, but it has this kind of like really deep, rich funkiness that makes it super unique.
And I think we have some of those casks from this winery. We just had a single cask from that, and it's crazy. You can never know where those scents are coming from, and when those smells and tastes are coming from. But when you taste the wine, you can see that. And then we have another one, a ruby port, again, fortified Israeli wine from the Lower Galilee, which is much more lactic and strawberries and stuff like that in a whiskey. The great thing about our climate and the strength of the alcohol that you can use exhausted cask from wineries. From them, they just finished with that. We can start. But it's the same thing with if we take in a cask from Scottish distilleries. So after 10, 12 years, or even 2 cycles that they use their cask that don't have anything to do with the cask, we just starting because the climate here just opens everything up, so we can actually source some of the unique notes back. So we can always try. This is the best playground.
Absolutely. I'm seeing some people in the chat saying they're very familiar with the brand. So Stacy says, love M&H, had a sample of it at the Belfast Whiskey Week last year.
Really?
Very
I
cool.
didn't know we were there, so yeah.
And then David Goldman says, love all your releases. Well, except the peated, but personally, when I go peat, I want more in your face peat. Okay, yeah. I think they have something. I mean, just based on these 3 alone, they're so different from each other. I feel like you could find something you like in their lineup, no matter if you like the peat, you like the smoky, or if you like those like really fruit forward notes, like the elements that we had earlier.
And for David, I think that not every expression, because the expression for the Apex series, the biggest one we had was 4,500 bottles, but usually it's 4, 5, 6 casks, so it's around 1,000 to 2,000 bottles. So not every expression is coming to America, but if you like peated ones, we have some peated port, we have some peated STR, which is my favorite from the peated series. When we tasted it after blending, we said, okay, we kind of got something like a Kilchoman Seneg or an 18-year-old Talisker in 3 years. And we couldn't understand what happened there. So for David, I'll try to get you some peated sensation to America.
Yeah, definitely much appreciated. Well, speaking of which, I know we were planning, we're going to move to the gin here in a second, but my good friend Aaron over at the Neck Pour on Instagram gave me 2 samples. I'm only going to drink one of them here right now, but this is the Single Cask Nation 3-year-old peated release. Joshua, you said you still had this bottle around, right? So tell us a little bit. I mean, yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, we consider ourselves very lucky in that not only are people like M&H, like Tal and Tomer at M&H business associates, but they're friends as well. And as the owner of Single Cask Nation, or one of the owners of Single Cask Nation, when we asked them if we could buy a cask, they didn't hesitate to say no, which we were very happy with. And I think to date we've bottled maybe 5 casks of M&H.
Oh wow!
And some 2-year-old and then this 3-year-old. And this one, the 3-year-old that you have, was unpeated spirit that was then matured in an ex-Isla cask. So you are going to get some peatiness coming through there.
Gotcha.
But it's all cask driven, and I can't remember. It may have been, well, I probably shouldn't give the distillery name. Let's just say it's an ex-Isla cask.
Okay.
But we did play around with the ABV a little, because I think we got this at around 65% alcohol, maybe 64. And it drank okay, but then we just played around with water a little bit, and we found that at 59.3, still really respectable. I have no idea what that equals to in proof. I'm terrible at multiplying. But at 59.3% alcohol, it took all of that fruit that we love about M&H and all of the oil, the texture, and took that to the fore, and the peat just kind of frames it in a really nice way. So that's why we went with this cask.
Oh yeah, I've actually. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think that usually when you're using ex-Isla casks with non-peated barley, you get a lot of earthiness, very fresh, and grassiness, and some citric notes. And then when you taste it, you get there's a difference between the nose and the palate. And then when you taste it, you get some of the smoke and the maritime scents. So we actually in the classic and the Apex and when we are using Apex single casks or all kinds of ex-Isla casks, and especially at the elements, we're using both of the techniques. We use peated barley in ex-bourbon and unpeated barley in ex-Isla. So you get a kind of a combination from the whole spectrum of notes.
And I've seen that done before. I mean, I just offhand, I know there's some rye whiskeys that do a similar thing with Isla casks. I know High West has done a few of those. Also, I just bought some Cuban rum. The was it Havana Club? They have a smoky one that's the same thing. They finish the rum in the Isla cask. That seems to be a very popular thing that I hadn't noticed until the past couple of years. But it does give it a unique twist. It's smoky, but not smoky like the other one was, like the Apex was. To me, it's more of a lighter smoke. It's definitely in the background. But then the whiskey itself is what's really showing off. Man, that proof is really good. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, cheers. And Tal, I really like what you said about the citrusy notes. I was still working on my fortified red wine, so I had to finish that. But now I'm on this, and that citrus just really comes through with the peat, with that coastal sort of quality on the peat.
I think when we are tasting the ex-Isla casks, you can actually see the differences between the distilleries we get the casks from. Some of that are really, you can feel the citrusy, the freshness, and the other one is more lactic. It's more heavy. And it's beautiful to see the differences between those. And when we start and do a blind tasting, of course, it's going to be hard when you're doing all peated ones, because sometimes it's, you need to do a break and have a lager. But then, you know us, we're always going to look for an excuse to have a lager. But when you do that, it's amazing to see the differences between twin casks, between same batches, just one cask laying next to the other, or in those 3 warehouses, just a few meters away, one from the other. It's beautiful. And because it takes everything back, the liquid just takes, there you go.
So just to your point, but extending it a little further, Tal. So these are 2 sister casks, and when these samples,
I can highlight you if you want to show.
Yeah, there you go. When these samples were pulled, they were sister casks. This one has been maturing in Tel Aviv, and it was maybe 7 months old at the time. And then this one that's much darker, sister cask, had been maturing at the Dead Sea, same age.
That's crazy.
Right?
Same age, and it's just that much of a difference from where it's aged.
100%. And so you can get that, like Tal is saying, in the distillery, casks next to each other, but then M&H sort of take it to not just the next level, but the next level after the next level after the next level, and mature whiskeys, in the lowest place on earth, to get this extreme maturation going on with their whiskeys.
Joshua, you know what we discovered? That if you taste the same whiskey, really, same whiskey, you take a classic, you taste it in Tel Aviv and you taste it at the Dead Sea, is different. It's like you taste something on the plane.
Well, so what's the elevation? Yeah, that's really interesting, because we actually, in the chat, there's someone here with a YouTube channel. Her name is Whiskey Mountains, and what she does is she compares whiskey to like trying it inside her house, and then when she's on a hike. So she notices there's a huge difference sometimes. Sometimes she'll love something having it at home, and then take it out on a hike, and she's like, "What is this? I don't like it." It's just really cool to hear that. And she actually just chimed in. She said that's so cool. It would be so neat to try those totally different altitudes next to each other. Yeah, so that's awesome. That's crazy difference.
Most of the problems is when you go into a winery and you taste the wines at the winery, then you buy some bottles, you go back home, and you can't even drink the wine because the winery makes it taste much better. You know that? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it was different. I don't know why we did it, why we brought a bottle of classic to the Dead Sea, there in the hotel, just next to the lobby. We just had, it was totally different. It was much more, sweet, much more spicier, because of the air pressure. Yeah.
So strange.
Yeah, it is.
That's so awesome. David, he was mentioning, as we're talking about climate, he said any plans to create a bourbon style whiskey. I'm guessing climate wise, it would be similar to Garrison Brothers in Texas. I think it's kind of the point you were touching on, like the lower altitude really changes the air pressure. I mean, would you guys do something like that with the Apex series, like maybe something more bourbon-esque?
So we don't distill anything else from barley. So if we want to do a bourbon, we can. If you taste a single bourbon cask from us, it's going to be a little bit bourbony, but not as bourbon. And if we're using, new oak like the bourbon industry, with our heat is going to be sometimes like black, almost.
It'll be like some Texas whiskeys go overboard with that.
Yeah, so we don't like it. We never say no. So let's see. Maybe we'll start using some corn and We'll see. We had some
I
experiment
got
with rye. We had some experiment with rye, but it's 1 or 2 casks. It's very hard for us with our machinery to work with rye because it's kind of muddy and
I've always heard
messy,
rye
and
is
it's
one of the most difficult grains to work with.
yeah. But
Well,
very interesting ex-rye casks. So yeah, we have to wait for those.
that's awesome.
Especially those that were aged at the Dead Sea. 112 liters, I think we have. Small, small like water cask from rye. Beautiful casks.
Man, that's so exciting. I was actually browsing on your YouTube page, and I saw you were like literally standing in the Dead Sea doing an interview or something one time.
Oh, yeah.
I think you were doing a tasting there. That was so cool.
It was, the marketing made us do it. It was 50 degrees or something like that.
Oh no. Well, it's a great video. I just saw the thumbnail. I'm like, wait, where are they? And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yes, and it's not snow; it's all salt. Yeah, we were actually standing on salt.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. It's definitely one of the places I want to visit at some point in my life. Well, we only have a few minutes left, but I did want to get into this gin because I thought it had a really interesting story. So can you tell us a little bit about the Levantine gin?
Yeah, so this is the Levantine gin. Again, we started off and looked for a little bit of cash flow, but not only that. I think that you have to understand that we are all a mix. We call Israel the melting pot, and it's first of all, it's Middle East, Mediterranean and Middle Eastern all together. So food and culture is a mix. And then it's us that we came from all over the world. My wife's father came from Iraq and her mother's from Berlin, and my father from Ukraine and my mother's from Bulgaria. So just think about dinner.
Oh, man. Sounds like a treat. You experience all the different cultures at once.
And so it is a mix of everything. And when we decided to make this gin, we decided first of all to make it from single malt. So it's the same new make. It's a single malt gin. So it's the same new make. And then, of course, we needed juniper to call it gin. But all the rest is something you're gonna open every Israeli's kitchen. The kitchen cupboard, and you can see all those spices inside. So it's, of course, lemon verbena, which we use in tea. You have black pepper, which we use a lot. We like spicy stuff. You have some cinnamon, you have chamomile, and you have oranges. We're from Jaffa, Tel Aviv, and lemon peels. Everything, we have lots of orchards around. And the signature, which is zatar. And zatar is a kind of a wild herb that grows out on the mountains, and it's called hyssop, I think, but it's not really this one. It's something kind of a very spicy wild oregano, and we use this as well. So after the second distillation, we take the spirit into a very little alembic, a 250 liters pot still, and soak the herbs inside, macerate the botanicals inside for 48 hours. And then we had this strainer, like a Carter head, up on the heads with lemon peels and fresh zatar, and we distill it again. So if you're talking about high ABV, when the gin is just going out from the little condenser, it's around 80% alcohol. That means 160 proof or something like that. So this is the highest ABV we get, or even a little bit more. And then we add some just a little bit of new make with no botanicals, just to open it a little bit, and then we take it down to 46. So it's a kind of a sipping gin, but in a nutshell, this is the Israeli cuisine, which is actually booming all over the world at the moment. Lots of Israeli restaurants. Everyone is eating shakshuka, which is something my kids are making for dinner, and this is I have a good friend that just won his first Michelin star in Chicago for an Israeli restaurant called Galit. So you can see Israeli restaurants all over. It's because of this mix. It's because of this mix, and it's because of those tastes. And I guess you can find it in this glass. So, cheers.
Yeah, cheers. The nose of this is so different than any other gin I've ever tried. I'm getting like a bit of like cayenne or like some kind of like paprika kind of. The reason I say that is because this is gonna sound like a weird comparison, but Arby's came out with a vodka like last year. Did you guys hear about that?
I thought that was an April Fool's joke, but
no,
it wasn't.
I was the fool because I bought it. Okay, but I did buy it. But they had one that was supposed to be curly fry flavor, and it was infused with things like I actually looked it up while we were saying that it's infused and distilled with cayenne, paprika, onion, and garlic. And this nose is very similar to that one. Of course, it tastes a lot better than Arby's vodka, but it's just so interesting that those notes that you would never pick up on any other gin are so dominant and present here. I think it smells delicious.
You should really, as you're sipping it, really pay attention to the texture on it. You know, one of the things that I think about with gin is, 90+, 95% of them are made from neutral grain spirit and then diluted to 40% alcohol, chill filtered. So they're taking out all of the oils. This is 46%. And it's coming from their new make, then macerated with the botanicals and then distilled once again. And so you're still getting all of that great texture that the whiskey had, but in the gin. And I think that in and of itself is kind of remarkable. And that's
I just had my first taste of it. Like you said, the mouthfeel is just so it drinks like a whiskey in terms of like how you don't get that often with gin. The only gins I've had something similar to that is kind of similar when they use like a rye grain, like a American whiskey distillery makes their gin out of a rye. This is very similar to that experience, that mouthfeel experience, and I think that makes it a sipping gin. I mean, I think the flavors mesh so well. It's not super overly juniper, which is good in my book. I'm not a huge juniper fan, but like you said, legally juniper has to be there. So, but I think, man, this is honestly one of the. I mean, I don't sip gin often, but this is delicious.
We like it as a martini more than a gin and tonic. Of course, it's nice as gin and tonic, or with ginger ale, because it's more like it's kind of halfway to be a whiskey. But as a martini, it's great. We were sitting in Tomer's laboratory with Joshua a few years ago, just tasting from a cask. You remember that? We were picking.
He rolled the cask right into the tasting room. It was fantastic.
Awesome.
Because the tasting room was air conditioned and outside was 45, 50 degrees. So we were just sitting there and having some martinis. So as a martini is great because we need you to feel the taste. Even though if you put some tonic and ice inside, you're still gonna get the spiciness. You can feel it's not a regular gin. We also have two expressions which are not coming to America. One is aged one in STR cask for a few months, so you get the color, you get some more kind of let's say you get more of the warm notes, kind of winter gin. And we just had another experience. We talked about ex-Isla casks, so we did a very small batch of this. Here we go, the peated one.
Oh wow! Whoa!
So,
how is that?
So,
how does that taste? That sounds so interesting.
So I ran out of my my regular gin. I could have gotten another bottle, but it was downstairs, and it's late for me, and I was lazy, so I said, you know what, screw it, I'll just pour some of the peated cask. And it's remarkable. It's kind of like how we talked about the ex-Isla cask kind of framing the fruitiness of the whiskey. This ex-Isla cask is very delicate, and it just amplifies all of the botanicals going on it. And this is at 50% rather than 46%. And so it's just a great sipper. Like
I was like, where do I get my hands on that? Is that available? Because that sounds so good. Like, I see people in the chat being like, wow, that sounds awesome.
I'll tell you the story with that. We wanted to make a special edition for the visitor center at the distillery. We have a little visitor center, and then there was no visitors because it was COVID time. So we had a few bottles. So I just took one home. I did a peated Negroni, which was amazing. So then Joshua told me, you have to send me one. So I sent you one bottle, and then we started to work with, I think, Taiwan, and they said, send me every gin you have. So we sent everything there. We have another batch now. I think it was even a little bit more peated. I think so. I'm not sure, but so we have now just released a little bit. So it again, it's in the visitor center or in China or in Taiwan. But yeah, I have a bottle for you. No worries, Clifton.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to like try it on the channel and do a review, because that's such. It sounds like it would work, because I know how that Isla cask impacted the, or no, we didn't use. Sorry, you didn't use the Isla cask. Oh no, it was the single cask nation.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Single
sorry,
cask
I
nation,
got confused for a second. But yeah, so it affected it so subtly, but also it like was really dynamic once you actually tasted it, and it kind of like complemented the flavors, like you said, versus overtook them.
Mhm.
That's
And
awesome.
we actually preferred this gin with Isla cask. Then we did another experiment that doing the same gin with peated barley.
Mhm.
So I told you we can. We just play all the time, and the one with the Isla cask was better. Was I think that's something, that combination between this grassiness and some fruity notes and the, again, earthiness and that
Mhm.
with the herbal notes here and spiciness just goes together great. But this one, as as our basic gin, or
Mhm.
almost are the only gin we produce, and I think it's still, look at how many, the finish, you get some other, it develops and you taste different herbs every time you sip it.
Yeah, on the finish,
Now,
I was
now
getting
it's
a
more
bit.
cinnamon. Now it's more cinnamon for me.
Oh, really? So for me on the finish, I was getting a little bit more like a sweet lemon, like almost like limoncello, kind of a little bit of that
Ooh.
essence of that just on the finish. I was just picking up a little bit of that. But wow, that's really an interesting. Yeah, everyone in the chat's like, I'm definitely gin curious. Yeah, everyone's wants to hear about that. Well, that's awesome. I know we're about out of time. But is there anything you guys have coming up? I know we mentioned earlier that the sherry cask element is available at Costco's for $50. I put the list of Southern California stores in the description. Is there anything else new coming either in either of your worlds? Actually, I mean, it could be outside of Milk and Honey as well. Anything cool coming up soon that we should be excited for?
From our side, the problem is the shipping time in the world, but there is
Right.
another, the new batch of the Dead Sea and a new batch of fully matured whiskey and pomegranate wine cask. It's on its way to America, and some single casks. And I'm coming over actually to the East Coast in the end of this month. So I hope that until the end of this year, I can come and visit you guys at the West Coast. So this is from us, and we have some crazy plans and some crazy. We just launched an IPA cask and some chocolate porter casks, and I don't know. We're playing
I
all the time.
love
As
that. I
told
love
you.
the experimentation. That's so cool, and I love seeing new things. I think you'll definitely build a fan base, and they'll be willing to try whatever kind of cask you put it in. They're gonna definitely seek that out. That's very, very exciting. I'm so glad to hear that, and I'm looking forward to trying more expression. Maybe when you're out here on the West Coast, I'd love to have you on again for some new releases. What about you, Joshua? Anything cool happening in your world soon?
Well, I need to point out that Swan in the comments had the best comment there. East Coast, Best Coast.
I figured that's the one you were talking about.
As a Connecticut boy, yeah, everything that we tasted is obviously still on shelves. One thing we didn't get to taste that really has become a favorite of mine was the Apex Cognac cask, which is just a spicy little devil. I really, really like that whiskey. There are some other M&H things coming, but I'm not one to sort of let the cat out of the bag.
I gotcha.
And yeah, I like to tease, but then especially like Tal had said, he just mentioned it in passing, but it is like the biggest nightmare in the world. The global shipping situation,
gosh.
like the global supply situation, is such a nightmare. Like I'd love to tease a whiskey that's coming in October, but that could be mid 2023.
I was like, October, which year? 2023,
yeah,
24?
it's a bit of a nightmare. Things are getting tough between global shipping supplies and glass shortages and blah blah blah. This, that, and the other thing. So there's so much on the shelves right now between what's in M&H's portfolio and some of the others that we're doing with Pandaren. And I tease Single Cask Nation, but we're looking at October, November, December. And Jason, even though officially I'm like the CEO, he stifles me. I'm not allowed to tease things. He slaps my wrist. So
well, you know what? Maybe I'll have both of you on for a Single Cask Nation stream. Maybe here soon. That'd be awesome.
It'd be lovely. Yeah,
I've tried several. A lot of my friends are really into. Before I even knew what single castination was, my friends already had like pretty much everything you guys ever put out. They share it amongst themselves, and we go to meetups and we have them all the time. They're so delicious, especially when you guys do American whiskey. I mean, some of the wild turkey stuff you guys have done has just been phenomenal.
We do have some wild turkeys coming, a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old coming.
Ooh, a 12. Okay. Well, they both sound really good, but I mean, I just had Russell's 13 recently, and oh my gosh, favorite
Gorgeous.
wild turkey product I've had so far. So I will keep an eye out for those. Well, thank you guys both for being here. This was a ton of fun. I would love to have you guys on again in the future to try some more expressions. So like, there's a lot of stuff out there. But yeah, thank you again, Tal, for getting up so early and doing this with us. It's much appreciated from these guys and from me. And Joshua, I hope to have you on again soon. And both of you guys have a wonderful rest of your day / night, wherever you are in the world. But it's been great having you on. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks so much. Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Bytes, whiskey reviews with a gaming twist. I'm Clifton, and welcome to a very special early stream. I know some of you are getting your notification now. You're like, why is he live 3 hours early? But I always am willing to do this when we have a very special guest like we have here tonight joining us very, very soon. Do you want to give a couple shout outs before we get going here? We have several patrons already here in the room. I appreciate y'all showing up this early for this stream. We also want to give a shout out to our mods, the Linux Cat, Donnie. What's up, Donnie? Good to see you. We have a few other mods that may join us later in tonight. Emily Chambers, I saw here earlier too. She is our newest mod, so glad to have her. A few Patreon shout outs, of course, to Fred Gilbert, Adriana Rodriguez, Don Nishida, of course. A few patrons that aren't here, but they're probably watching the replay. Aaron Blum, Spencer Dewar, Wesley Zeller, James Taylor, Todd Cooper, Brian Brennicky. I appreciate all you guys. If you're watching this, if you're watching the replay or you're watching live and this is your first time, that I do have a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel in any way for as little as $2 a month, you can click the little button over there. I pinned in the chat. So you can support the show there. And of course, with super chats throughout the night, if you want to get your question answered by our very special guest. Of course, I'm reading everyone's chat, but if you want to make sure that your question is read, super chats are always appreciated. They really do help out the channel here. With that, I do want to say a couple things, a couple announcements up front. I will not be doing a live stream on Saturday. I'm actually doing a very small socially distanced meetup with a couple people from the channel, but also local group friends too. So we will not be live on Saturday. However, I will be uploading a review of 2 really, really special whiskeys from Bardstown Bourbon Company. Very, very excited to get into those. Very, really cool stuff they're doing there. I also want to say that our after party hangout that is normally right after my stream on Thursday nights, since we're doing a little bit early, I don't want to get the party started too early. So so we will be doing that at 7 p.m. Pacific. So basically what time I normally start my stream. Just head over to our Discord server, which if you guys aren't part of the Discord, you can go check it out, bourbonbytes.com. It'll redirect you there. We do lots of hangouts there, do a lot of gaming, lots of really cool stuff there. So definitely check that out. So just all the announcements are out of the way first. So without further ado, I want to welcome our very, very special guest of the evening, Will Schragus from Barrel. Welcome, Will.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I mean, I'm really excited to have you. I was talking to you a little bit before, but I actually haven't had anything from Barrel on my channel other than one pour, which I just saw Patrick Starkey came in the room. Patrick Starkey is one of the patrons of the channel and also a good friend. He sent out samples to a bunch of my viewers for my New Year's Eve countdown. And we had a sample of the New Year's Bourbon 2020. And we did it as a toast, as an end to 2020. And I will say, that was probably one of the best things that came out of 2020 is that whiskey. So congratulations on that one.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Patrick, for being so generous with everyone.
Yeah, Patrick's awesome.
The New Year Bourbon is, and I'll talk about the brand a little bit more, but sure. It's interesting that it's a project we've done 5 times now. And when we started putting it together in October and November, in such a crazy year, there was this sort of comfort in the sense of normalcy of oh my God, we have to blend something out of so many different distilleries in such a peculiar, it wasn't any different. We were all locked in the distillery the way that we would have been.
Right.
It wasn't a pandemic. And so usually we send it out with this big boisterous, things are amazing, Happy New Year, everyone. And this year it was a little bit more somber of a like, we found some comfort in doing this thing. Like, let's celebrate making it through.
It's a way to leave 2020 with on a positive note.
But anyway, I think that we are pretty solidly like a medium-sized whiskey producer now, and we're about 7-8 years old. And so I'm glad that you like the little bit you've had, but hoping to show you a little bit more. We're really turning this corner where we're hoping that we're a bottle that shows up on pretty much any whiskey drinker's bar pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it everywhere out here in Southern California. I just haven't had a chance to really explore it. So I figured what better time to do it than with you here on the show.
Here we go.
Awesome. So I guess one question I like to ask every guest I have on the channel, what we do on my channel is a kind of a mix of whiskey and video games. So question, are you a gamer or were you a gamer when you were growing up? Just curious.
Yeah. So gaming is, I don't have an exact answer to that because the boring answer would be no. I don't game a lot right now.
Sure.
But at moments in my life, I have played video games a lot. And like anything that is a really big part of your life and or an addiction, I still get like cravings for things. And so like there are days that I'll go on eBay and I'll be like, how much would it cost for me to buy an account for like the first ever Quest to go play for a little bit?
Oh, wow.
Or like, I'm going to see if I can dig up Elder Scrolls Morrowind for a second. But I moved around a lot for college and grad school, and I never had a video game system. I was never a computer gamer.
Gotcha.
And I never really got into things on my phone or anything. And so I have recently started playing hockey video games a little bit again.
Oh, interesting.
But I'm more interested in the franchise part of it than the playing other people part. So I love participating in conversations with gamers. We have a woman that works for us named Jessica in Texas, who's a really big gamer. And I love talking to her about it and like trolling her a little bit about getting her amped up about stupid things that I would do in role-playing games. But the short answer would be no, because I bet I'm in a conversation with a lot of gamers right now, and I would not be able to hold my own.
Oh, no, don't worry about that. So I'm actually, I actually talked to Jessica at the Repeal Day Expo.
Oh,
because everyone told me I was at the Barrel booth, which for those of you that don't know, this was like a virtual expo. So like we weren't actually there in person. It was just our little 3D avatars. But I went to the Barrel booth and I said like, oh, what my channel was. And everyone was like, oh my God, you have to come back in like 3 hours. Jessica loves video games.
Right.
So I actually met her there, which was really cool. But yeah, no. So most of my viewers aren't gamers. I've come to realize that. I consider myself a gamer, but only in the fact that I enjoy it, not that I'm good at it. So a lot of what I do on my channel is classic, like Super Nintendo, like NES games. So that's always kind of my specialty, because that's what I grew up playing. Those are my favorite things to play. So even though I say it's a gaming channel, it's still more of like a remember that game from your childhood kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of how I feel. Like I think I could still probably do most of the moves from Mortal Kombat.
Yes. Yeah. We had we didn't have that game. We did I had a bunch of other whiskey channels on a while back ago, and someone's favorite game was the what was the knockout game on Super Nintendo? It was Mike Tyson's Knockout, I think it was called.
Right.
And then he played like 3 levels of that while we just watched him in awe, as he's just like, and he hasn't played this game in like 20 years, but he's still kicked ass at it.
One of my favorite random memories from and I know it came up. We're I think I'm a little bit older than you, but we're about the same age.
Yeah, I'm 27, so
is playing a Game Gear when I was a little kid. Game Gear like lost the battle to Game Boy, but it was color and it was big. It was like this big, and I loved it. So I played Sonic on Game Gear. That was like my parents would give it to me in the car to play.
Gotcha.
But one of the reasons it was a problem was it just tore through AA batteries. It took 6 at a time, and you only got a couple hours to play out of it.
Man, that must have been huge. I recognize the name, but I think I was just so in the Nintendo world, I didn't get into that. I didn't play Sonic growing up at all, which is weird because like everyone loves Sonic, but I never had a Sonic game.
My mom told me that there were times where we'd be in a long car ride or taking a plane, and she would have to bring like 24 AA batteries because like the only way to like keep me satiated was the Game Gear, and it just like would tear through batteries so much. And so
that's crazy.
Anyway, I digress. You asked me a question that I like to talk about.
Yeah, well, don't ever say, I think everyone is a gamer in some aspect, whether you're playing games on your phone or whatever, as long as you just enjoy, passing time, doing something like that. I consider everyone a gamer. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get into the whiskey. Let's go ahead and pour something in our glass while we talk. I just poured a little bit of the Barrel Rye Batch 3. to start us out here tonight. So is that what you're starting with as well?
That is what I'm starting with as well. I'm going to pour a little bit more because I find myself drinking this one quickly. I think I should probably start with talking about barrel.
Well, first I was just
a little bit, right?
Well, I was before that. I was going to actually ask about you. You know, how did you find yourself at Barrel?
Yeah. So I met Joe Beatrice, who's the owner and founder of Barrel. Still works for the company full time. Everything that leaves our warehouse is still signed off by him.
Right.
As our portfolio gets bigger and bigger, I think one thing that keeps it unified is that we still have a single vision for is this part of it or is it not part of it? Mm-hmm. And so for me and Nick, who's our single barrel program manager, and Tripp, who's our chief whiskey scientist, like whatever we do is still like, okay, I'm trying to get this as good as I can before I bring it to Joe, and Joe says yes or no. Sure. And that system seems to work really well for us. I met Joe when he was a one-man operation selling bourbon batch number 1, and I was the buyer at a store called Zacky's in the suburbs of New York City.
Oh wow!
And I was the second store ever to buy barrel bourbon.
Wow! And so wait, was he doing it like on his own at that point? Like
yeah, technically you're not allowed to self-distribute, but he didn't have a distributor, so he was doing all the delivery and using a clearinghouse. Sure. And we ended up spending like 2 hours just chatting about whiskey. Mm-hmm. And he told me like that day, like, by the way, like you're going to work for me one day. And fast forward like a year, I had left that job and I was working for a rum importer representing mostly rum agricoles, and managing the East Coast and Texas for them. And we had stayed in touch, but he got back in touch with me and was like, I know that it's sort of a conflict of interest and like you're an honest person. I'm not going to ask you to consult for me, but can we go to Whiskey Fest together? Like I'll buy you the ticket and can we just taste and we'll talk about the whiskey and who's representing it and stuff. And so we saw each other every once in a while just to sort of check in. And then in 2016, he said, we have enough stock now. We have our footing in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and a couple other states. Like I'm ready to be a national brand. You want to do it? And as a 26-year-old at the time, to have someone say like, I want you to be the single person representing this whiskey brand besides me in the entirety of the United States. By the way, everything's expensive. We only do cask strength and you get to launch a new product every month. Pretty big, yes.
Exciting, but intimidating, I would imagine.
It was really intimidating, and there's a lot of flying by the seat of your pants, but I think that when you're a company that is really focused on innovating and sort of breaking the mold, you have to put people in place, myself, but also really our whole sales team and our production team and Nick and Tripp and like everyone who is good at shooting from the hip and figuring out problems instead of like, this is how I did it at my last company. Sure. Because everything we do is a little bit different from anyone else. Oh, go ahead. Good. So I guess Joe found me, and I had come from fine wine. I had worked in spirits a little bit, but I mostly was a wine person. And that lends itself well to complicated products, but it was definitely a learning experience for me about what types of people drink whiskey and what they want from whiskey producers. And so now, unfortunately, my job is a little bit more sending passive-aggressive emails to distributors and logistics, but I get to do a lot more in product development. And then I also feel like I had 4 or 5 years just on the road talking to people about whiskey. And I'm a baby for my job, but I also feel like my entire adult life has been like entrenched in this company, making it bigger. And so it like really feels like I'm part of it, which is amazing.
And you mentioned, I mean, the company is pretty new. Am I reading right that you guys started in 2013? Like, yeah. And you joined in 2016, and it's a small team, right? Like, you guys only have a few. Like,
yeah. So the company's about 25 people total, but that is HR, bottling, blending, warehousing. The sales team is 5 people. So we have, I don't know, I bet someone's watching this from the sales team. We have Eva, who is our Northeastern Senior Brand Development Manager. She was the first person besides me on the sales team. She's based in New York, but she does essentially the whole East Coast now. Not really Florida, but everything above Florida. And then any state that is a control state that we're launching into, she's our sort of like bureaucracy specialist for them.
Sure.
And then on her team is a woman named Lindsay, who is the beverage director of the William Vale Hotel before us. And so she's definitely a product specialist. And She's been great. We have a woman named Stephanie who's based in Colorado who manages like all of the states that you don't know where they are on the map. Like 14, more than half of the geographical.
Not knowing where half of them are.
And she came to us from William Grant, so she like had a lot of experience with high-end whiskeys, and she's wonderful. Jessica in Texas, who's like, don't mess with Texas, gamer, like a road warrior. We really like her.
Jessica. She seems like really, really cool.
She's super cool. And then a man named Ned, who's based in Kentucky, who probably has the most complicated job on the sales team because he is there. So not only does he have his own sales run in Kentucky and Tennessee, but he is helping out in the distillery all the time and like running whatever weird favors we need locally at the same time. So he is this like dual job. And so, yeah, it's like we're a really tight-knit team. We all come from different parts of the industry or not the industry at all. We're probably on the phone. Everyone is on the phone with each other probably once a day. And so even though it's regional managers, it's sort of like, what do we got to do together to get it done?
That's awesome. Well, I guess you mentioned earlier that you guys, Barrel is all about innovation. So you guys aren't really you don't describe yourself as a distillery, right? Because you guys mostly specialize in the blending aspect of things, right?
Yeah, if you look at like the legalities in America, we're a distillery and a rectifier, but we don't distill anything from grain.
Right.
At one point when Joe was launching the brand, the idea was I'm going to blend whiskeys until I can invest in distilling my own. And every couple years we've taken a look at that. But as we grow, any sort of putting a real plan in place gets bigger and bigger because you can't build a small distillery for a big brand. You have to build a big distillery for a big brand. And as we've grown, we were one of the first. It was like sort of High West and then us. To be very upfront about like, we are making things that are greater than the sums of their parts. We're respecting the people that are making really good whiskey in America, and we want to be a partner to them. And this model exists in other countries and in other industries, and like, we're going to do it really well here. And so now we have this portfolio that's like old cask strength whiskeys. So when we've got a couple $1 million to invest, like, we don't want to invest in a still. We want to invest in like 1,000 10-year-old barrels to use.
Right.
And so we've kind of turned the corner now where like we have no intention on being our own distillery. If you had interviewed me 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said by 2021, I think we'll be distilling. But we do have some small stills that Trip uses for experimental things. And then occasionally we'll produce something that we need for blending, like we'll redistill something. But our distillery partners are up to in the 70s at this point with distilleries we work with around the world. And so to us, that is the expansion we want to do. There's a lot of people making really good spirits in the world, but we just want to work with all of them.
Yeah. Well, you said, like you said, there's other types of like Scotch. There's these, bottlers that are doing their own blendings and things like that. So was that kind of the inspiration behind starting Barrel as a brand?
Well, in Scotland, it's interesting. Scotland and America, there's really 3 different, this is getting into the nitty gritty a bit, but it seems like you've got the crowd that wants that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They appreciate the small details.
There's like 3 different business models for people that are not distilling everything themselves. There's what America would call a non-distiller producer. And that's a company. And I mean this all in a good way. Then I have no judgment for anyone that falls into any of these categories.
Sure.
But that's a company like Redemption or like Bullet.
Right.
Where they're a brand. They're not saying they're bottling other people's things. And they may actually even move on who's producing for them, but their specialty is in like communication and branding and distribution and follow-up. And so those companies are saying, we make whiskey that we're proud, we like get whiskey that we're proud of, and we're really good at talking to you about it. And we are outsourcing the production completely to someone else.
Sure.
And that's not your business.
Right.
And those brands garner a little bit of bad press in America because a lot of them are not really forthcoming about the fact that they're doing that.
That's I mean, I'm totally on board with like brands that source, but when they're not straightforward with it and they kind of are shady about, they had this backstory.
Right. It's like, don't just tell me the truth is how I feel. A lot of people
have some backstory about their grandfather's recipe, but like, no, you're sourcing that. Like,
right.
That's
I know who you're talking about, and yeah, they got slammed for it and they deserve to. The second is what people would call an independent bottler. And that is someone who is sourcing casks usually and bottling them under the provenance of the place where it was distilled. So Gordon MacPhail would be a really good example of that. Single Cask Nation, I think, is probably the best American company doing that right now, because they're not only working with Scotch distillers, but they're working with people all over the world, and they're being extremely forthcoming and transparent about it. But the point of that is them as a curator or them as a selector. And so you're not really buying a Single Cask Nation whiskey. You're buying a, I don't know, Macallan Single Cask Nation whiskey. The third, which is the most complicated, which is where we really fall in, is what Scotland would have called a merchant bottler, which the first and most famous is really Johnny Walker. But there's a lot of companies like that now. And I think the newest one, and the one that we consider a cousin the most, is Compass Box.
Oh yeah, I love Compass Box. I haven't had a rep on from them, but I've tried a lot of their whiskeys on the channel. They do some really cool stuff.
They're really cool. And what Compass Box and what we are saying is, we source barrels from all sorts of people. We source distillate, we source young distillate, we source old distillate, we source things that we think are good by themselves, we source things that are gross but make good ingredients. But we don't want you to be appreciating what we make based on the places that it was made. We want you to be appreciating what we make based on what we bring to the table. And the fact that we are not going out and outsourcing our production, we are outsourcing ingredients, much like a cheese cart in a restaurant. Just because you have a good cheese program doesn't mean that you make good cheese, but you still have to worry about the presentation, and are you treating it correctly, and is it fitting its place, and is it priced correctly, and all of that.
Exactly.
And so transitioning from the independent bottler model to the merchant bottler model took us a minute, because the first couple batches were all of the barrels came from one place, and then starting with batch number 7 in 2016. We started blending things together. Batch number 7 in 2016 was the first of our bourbon releases to win Best Bourbon in the San Francisco Spirits Competition.
Oh, wow. And, so you were like, we're onto something here.
One of the reasons that it did that, I think, was because we took older bourbon and declassified it down into a 6-year-old. And that's just not something that most companies are willing to do. And it's delicious. So if you look at a lot of the batches that have this sort of secondary lore, a lot of them are the ones with younger age statements, and it's because they were older. There was older whiskey or older bourbon declassified into it. Gotcha. And that is a painfully expensive way to deal with old barrels, but it makes for really, really good bourbon. So we don't always do it. The one we're tasting tonight, 26, is a 9-year-old, so we didn't declassify it that far. There's as old as 14 or 15-year-olds in it, but not. It wasn't declassified super low.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, well, the babes of bourbon say, as long as companies are upfront, is all we care about. All we care about is the taste. Then, well, great transition into tasting this batch 3 rye. So tell us a little bit about this. So you guys, this is basically a combination. So this is a combination of Indiana, Tennessee, Poland, and Canadian rye. That's a really interesting selection. How did you guys come about that?
So this is the 3rd batch of rye that we've done. We also do single barrels, both from Indiana and from Canada. But the impetus behind this was to take the 95.5 mash bill from a gigantic distillery in Indiana, which I'm not going to say the name of out loud, but
we got you. We got
for
you.
Everyone who thinks they know what I'm talking about, you're right. That is such a classic flavor profile, and we wanted that to be the driving force behind this, but we didn't want to just be bottling that in a batch. And so we had this sort of come to Jesus meeting about, like, what do you wish rye was in America? Because rye in America is like amazing for cocktailing and delicious, but it is such a tight canon because of how expensive it is to produce, and also because the rules are very, very tight on rye. In fact, someone could argue they're almost more tight on rye than they are on bourbon, because rye as a flavor grain has so much to give, and you by law have to cover it up with new oak. Whereas like corn as a flavor grain kind of needs the oak, but rye does. There's not a ton. There's some good, but there's not a ton of really exciting corn whiskey out there that doesn't see a lot of virgin oak.
Sure.
There's rye whiskey from all over the world that sees all sorts of different types of barrels, and it's delicious. So we had already from Rye Batch 2 and some other projects we were doing this 100% malted Polish rye. It's a single malt whiskey from Poland, but instead of barley, it's rye. So it's double pot stilled. It's like a very, imagine like a Scotch forward, but out of rye style whiskey.
Yeah, everyone in the chat, they're like, Polish rye? What? Oh, that sounds fun. Everyone's excited about that one.
Everyone's always asked me, like, what is Polish rye like? And like, I don't know the answer to that. I know what that particular rye was like. There's no category for it. similarly, we had some barrels that were out of Tennessee that we had used in some other blends that were just sort of test batches from some distilleries in Tennessee that we showed up the barrel. And so we used those it's a very small amount of those. The big impetus behind this was taking the Polish rye and blending that cereally sort of overripe mango-y malty character into it without ruining the mouthfeel of the virgin oak in the Indiana rye, and then also blending some older, I think it's up to 14-year-old Canadian ryes that have that very appley white flowers, fermented honey sort of thing, and are done in used oak. And so there's very little wood tannin on them, and using that to kind of strip out the oak domination from the Indiana rye. So the hope with it is you get everything you want out of what would otherwise be a very high proof, awesome Indiana 95.5. But then if you care to smell it and taste it and think about it, there's a whole world of other stuff to find in it too.
Oh yeah. Well, I think what I was getting on the nose is I got that kind of floral aspect that I don't typically associate with, because I'm a big fan of Indiana rye. Don't get me wrong. I've had plenty of it on the channel here. But it on the nose, it's a little bit sweeter and a little bit more, I guess, earthy, I would say a little. But I'm getting that, and I'm wondering if that's from those other types of rye that I'm at least less familiar with.
I think it's from that, but it's also that when you have bourbon and rye and other 100% virgin oak distillate, there's often things in that distillate that are very difficult to find because the tannin and the sweetness and the lignin and vanillin from the oak is so there, it's really hard to notice. So it's there's a lot of wine, for instance, that is extremely oaky, and actually there's really beautiful terroir driven or vintage driven fruit quality to it, but you lose it because of how oak driven it is. There's a lot of American whiskey that you put on the rocks, you put a little bit of water in, or you let sit for a little while, or you drink enough that you start to ignore the oak by accident or on purpose, and you find all of this complexity in it. And there's this shame with rye, I think, that rye as a grain has so much to give. And it's a more complex, more interesting, more flavorful grain than corn is. And yet we have these rules about rye with new oak, which should be there. I'm not saying that we should get rid of them.
Right.
But it's very difficult to find rye in America that doesn't abide by those rules, because that's how you have to make rye in America, and that's what people expect. So what's interesting about this whiskey is a lot of people who drink whiskeys from all over the world tell us that this is their favorite thing we've done. People who are rye drinkers are it's cool, but it's weird.
I wouldn't say weird. It kind of goes a different direction than you'd expect when you taste it. I just actually recently had the Alberta Premium Cask Strength rye, which finally made its way to the States, and that one just blew me away. There's so much. I don't know for sure. I'm assuming they're not using new oak. I don't know for sure, but I didn't get much oak influence on theirs. So I'm seeing kind of where that's taking this one. I think it takes it. I almost want to say it reminds me of a. If gin was released at cask strength, I'm kind of getting some gin kind of notes on that. Is that weird?
No, I think that
not the juniper, but
it's that gin has a lot. Gin's a white spirit that has a lot of flavor, and so to think about an aged spirit that is not oak driven, I would totally say that is a thing. There are notes that are really defined in gin, especially sometimes it's they're blended in compounds, and to find notes like that in a whiskey means that it's a really singular, interesting whiskey.
Absolutely.
And it certainly is herbaceous the way that a gin would be.
Yeah, I'm digging it. It's different, but I mean, I'm a rye fan, so I love trying new, different expressions of rye. I do want to give a shout out to our first super chat here tonight. Mr. Whiskey Shits says, "Cheers, cheers to you, Mr. Whiskey Shits." I still giggle every time I see that name. But cheers. And like I said, if you guys have questions, sorry if I missed them in the chat. You guys are very chatty tonight. But any super chats that come through, of course, I will absolutely feature during the show. So I'm a fan of this rye. So are you when you're drinking whiskey, do you gravitate more towards a rye or a bourbon? What's your favorite?
I am really an equal opportunity drinker.
Okay.
I both because my career has gone from wine to rum to whiskey.
Gotcha.
What you're left with is favorites from different places, and also people you want to support and things that are nostalgic.
Sure.
But also that at Barrel, we do so much weird cask and interesting cask finishing, and then we blend from so many distilleries that I end up tasting so many different things with or without a reason to taste. It's like, okay, we want to try this, or how do we feel about this thing? That I think what working for a company like Barrel forces you into is you're interested in everything, but you are not really interested in boring stuff. And so I for a long time was like, okay, when I'm working, I'm drinking really fancy whiskey, and when I'm not working, it's like I love Wild Turkey 101.
Okay, that's actually a question I was going to ask you later on. I always like to get people a little drunk before I ask them what they drink when they're not. So yeah, you're a Wild Turkey fan.
But so what has happened in the last 2 or 3 years is like I drink everything when I'm working, and when I'm not working, it's like I want to drink like well executed, tasteless Italian white wine, or like mango White Claw, or like sake.
No dissing on the White Claw here. I'm a big fan.
I'm not. What I'm saying is,
although I like the black cherry over the mango, but that's just personal preference.
we could buy a mixed pack together.
Yeah, there we go. We can split it.
you always want to hang out with people who like the other things in the mixed pack.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I really dig the rye, but I think it's time to move on to something else from you guys. And I think this is what you guys are known for the most, which is barrel bourbon. Or at least your namesake. I mean, I think are you guys officially Barrel Craft Spirits or officially Barrel Bourbon?
So, Barrel Craft Spirits is the official name of the company now, but a lot of people know us as Barrel Bourbon. Bourbon is like our bones. And the way that we put whiskeys together is still the way that we put bourbons together to start. And we joke that bourbon is our vodka because it sells itself and it keeps the lights on. And so at any given moment, we might have 4 or 5 or 6 core items, plus God knows how many single barrels and private releases. Right. But half of the things that are going out the door are still barrel bourbon batch blank.
Gotcha. Real quick, before Chris was asking, I was drinking the batch 3 rye, yes. So just want to answer that before we moved on.
Also, for Chris and anyone else, we sold out of batch 3 rye today, which is interesting timing. So there's still plenty in our distributors' warehouses and on retail shelves.
You guys buy it up. That's your warning. Go for it.
This is the last call moment of whatever you see in the market is what is there. We no longer have any more to replenish anything. And there will eventually, I hope, be a rye batch 4, but we have a new whiskey coming out that we can talk about later in April, that the base of it is a blend of Canadian and Indiana rye. And so we're temporarily pausing the rye batches while we are able to really talk about that whiskey too.
So y'all know what that means. Y'all go buy that up because you know that's going to be sought after once it
also means you're going to have me back in a couple months when I have a new whiskey for you to try.
Would absolutely love to have you back. I mean, we're only 30 minutes in, but I'm having a great time so far. So we're drinking the batch 26 bourbon. Now this one's 112.64 proof. What can you tell us about this batch?
So batch 26 is a minimum 9-year-old. I believe there's up as high as 15 years old in this.
Okay.
It was blended in October of last year, the very beginning of October. And batch 25 came out in the middle to the end of the summer. And it was the first time we had ever used a wheated bourbon in one of our blends.
Oh, interesting.
And so, and batch 25 was one of the ones that had older whiskey declassified into a 5-year-old. And it sold out like immediately because of that.
Wow.
And so batch 26 came, and the whole business plan, the like sports jacket, not cool part of my job, where I was like, Trip, Nick, Joe, batch 26 needs to be big enough so that it can get us through the end of the year without having to relaunch another batch. It's October. We can't do another one.
Sure.
And everyone was like, great. Okay. And they started blending barrels, and they were putting barrels together, and they got to this moment where Joe called me and he's like, psych, it's perfect. That's it. And it ended up being a pretty small batch. It's based on a set of 9-year-olds, some of which are a really high rye mash bill, and some of which are this like were up in the top of the rick house for a while, so like really opulent 9-year-olds, and then some 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds that we use a lot that are over oaked, and they bring backbone into things, so they're like pretty bad barrels by themselves, but amazing ingredients. So we vat them together, and then this vatting that Nick, who is our single barrel program manager but sits on the blending team, also really put together that we call the secret sauce, which is 14-plus-year-old Tennessee bourbon barrels that came out of the barrel at less than like 103 proof.
Oh, wow.
And so they are insanely easy to drink,
Yeah.
and they take otherwise very flavorful and interesting things that are too harsh or assertive, and they just like make them easy to drink. They don't. It's just. It's not. The secret sauce is not a good bourbon by itself. It's too simple. But it's old and simple, and it's not super high proof, and it's simple, and it is our way of being like, we nailed the flavor profile, and now we need to like nail the body and the drinkability side of it. And the secret sauce has become that. It's like that's the first step. Is like, let's add a little secret sauce, see what happens.
Gotcha.
Like the pickled jalapenos of whiskey, and so that is really what made this batch work. Is it was so loud and delicious, and then it was like reined into a complete whiskey by that last older ingredient. And that's why the proof is pretty high on this, but it doesn't read so much like that because it was a little higher, and that last component sort of brings it into what feels like a sort of round complete whiskey.
Gotcha. And that's funny you mentioned that. Actually, like I said, I'm reviewing Bardstown Bourbon Company for Saturday. I was just reading over their press releases. They do a similar thing. They save that older stock to blend in at the end to add some like roundness, to add that little oak element. They take what's already a good whiskey and then bring that in. Because like you said, on its own, when you overage something, it's not going to be that great,
right.
you know. But it has its purpose, and that sounds like what you guys are doing there too.
But what's interesting about that project is when we identify barrels that will work for that vatting, we pull them out of wood because we don't want them to get any oakier.
Sure.
And so we have a stainless steel tank full of this, like, we know what this will do when we need it component.
Wow, sorry, I just took my first sip of that. That's fantastic. So keep going, sorry.
Yeah, and so I guess like I didn't really mention it, but like the two foundations of our company are we are concerned with making the best whiskey we can at any moment, or the best spirit, because we do rum also. We're not at all concerned with being able to make it again or with making the same thing. So there's a few releases we do, like the Dovetail, which we're about to try, and Armida, which I'll probably talk about, but I know you don't have there yet. That we revat them from time to time. And we do that to taste, and we do that to, is this the best we can make it? So they do change a little bit.
Okay.
But all of the batches, like, we start from scratch and we're like, what's the best thing we can make at this moment? The second foundation of our company is no questions asked. Everything is at cask strength.
That's fine with me. I'm a bit of a proof whore. I call myself a bit here. I love cask strength releases.
that came from Joe. It was his favorite way to drink whiskey before he started the company, was tasting cask strength barrel samples.
I was going to ask, is that kind of inspiration for the name? Because I heard the name, I was like, well, it sounds like such an innovative name, but you got to think about it. Like, is that where that came from? Tasting straight from the barrel?
Yeah, where it really came from is when Joe was looking at, he knew what he wanted to do conceptually with what type of whiskey he wanted to put together and how he wanted to talk about it. But he had all of these different name ideas, and every time he'd ask people, half the people would hate it, half the people would like it. And he finally got to this point where he was like, I just want a company that has no bullshit. And so, again, this is not a really sexy way of describing it, but barrel with 2 L's is a very easily search engine optimized misspelling of the word barrel.
I was like,
are
you targeting the people that are going to misspell it, or the people that are looking for it?
Either way, but it's like, you can control that name. It's a name, and the 2 L's looks really good on the label.
It does.
And it really was like, Joe was like, everything about this company is going to be utilitarian and systematic, and so the name is going to be what we need in a name, which is recognizable, looks good on the label, doesn't need an explanation, and search engine optimizable, which in 2013 was a big deal for a whiskey company. At this point, everyone's playing that game, and it's a little more difficult. But and so there isn't a story. It is no one's uncle's middle name.
Well, that's a good sign. I did have another question. I asked on my Patreon earlier today if anyone had any questions. Adriana, who's actually also here, she asks, is there like a certain flavor profile you guys aim for between the batches? I know you said the batches are all different, but is there like a signature barrel flavor profile you guys look for?
There's not a signature barrel profile that we all look for. And really every time the meeting starts with, what do we want to do? What's the best thing we can make? And then as we're blending it, it a little bit creates itself through trial and error of what are we going to do today? But there definitely, if you taste our whiskeys, is a house style or a house preference. because Joe and Trip have put together every one of the bourbons, and Nick and I have been around for a long time. And in general, our company likes that slightly more umptious, fruit-forward style of bourbon.
Literally, the first thing that comes to mind when I sip this is it's fruit forward. So that was my one note. You stole it from me.
And so I think that there is a unifying characteristic, especially between the batches of bourbon, in that they are generally pushed in that direction if the choice is offered. There are bourbons that are like very vegetal and earth driven and dusty. And there's notes of that, I think, because we use barrels that show that way quite a bit. And there's single barrels that we release that we really like that about them, and they become single barrels. But with the exception of a couple batches that I think were a little more savory, most of what we do is this like really juicy style of bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really pairs nicely with the cask strength, because a lot of times when you see cask strength stuff, you do see the older, super oak forward, which, don't get me wrong, this is oak forward, but there's a lot of like fruitiness. Like it's like it's not quite cherry. I'm trying to place like what fruit I get on the front of that, but really, really sweet, almost like a cooked cherry pie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, or like maraschino cherry.
Yeah,
like a cherry pits.
Like super sweet, not necessarily the dark cherry that I sometimes get. Really like a candied kind of note on the front of that.
If you know the taste of like almond cookies, that like they almost taste like cherry at that point, that like Di Serono kind of taste.
Okay. Yeah,
like that's what I get a lot.
Yeah, I can get that for sure. I mean, I still think, again, these are older whiskeys that are going into this. I like older, I tend to gravitate towards the older releases. So I'm loving that bit of oak that's combined with that. I mean, honestly, like I said, never had barrel before this stream. So very excited, other than the New Year's release. So I'm really, really enjoying this one. I think it's super well balanced in a way that, some older single barrels, while I love them, they can't be that balanced. But I do want to ask, so you guys have a single barrel program. So how do you guys, pick what's going to be a single barrel versus what's going to go into a batch? Is it like the off profiles or like the ones that really stand out? Like what makes you guys pick those?
So we have a single barrel program. In order for a barrel to be identified as a single barrel program, it has to be something that Joe and Nick and Trip feel is in balance as a complete whiskey by itself.
Okay.
So when we warehouse in a lot of different places. And so, but we have our own facility where we do blending and bottling that holds a couple hundred barrels, at least more really. And so as things come in, they get like very quickly checked. And if it's something that we feel like will be a good single barrel, we do what's called chalking it. We just like mark the barrel. And so it stays in its group, but it's chalked. Then as we're putting a blend together, or as we're going and looking for single barrels, we know which ones to go to first, and they sort of get pulled out. And so there's certain sets of single barrels where there's a set of barrels and they're sorted between this percentage of them are vatted and used as an ingredient in bourbon, and this percentage of them were chalked and we still feel are good single barrels, and they're single barrels. And then there's some single barrels, like there's a series that's just getting released soon. It's being bottled next week, actually, that we call the Z1 series, which is all of the single barrels that start with Z1 and then they have another letter and then they have a number. So it's a 4-digit code. And those are chalked barrels from batches 24, 25, and 26 and 27. So there's everything from 5 to 11 years old in that. And there's Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, many different distilleries.
Do you guys do you guys reveal like what's in the single barrel or no?
We'll reveal what state it was distilled in and the age.
Okay, that's mostly what I meant. Like, you're not just gambling. Is it Tennessee? Is it Kentucky? But you tell them that. That's awesome.
What we are doing, because there's about 90 barrels in the Z1 series, is we are giving preference to the groups and liquor stores that want to taste them blind.
Okay.
So if you know that there's many options in that series and you are down to pick your favorite without knowing what they are, it's not that you have to buy the one that you picked. Some people taste through them, they pick a 5-year-old, because everyone always picks the 5-year-old when it's blind. But then they say our customers really need something that's older. Our second favorite was this, and we say that one's 8, and they say, okay, we'll take the second one.
That's so disappointing.
I get it. What it is. Like, everyone's business needs to do what's best for their business, and I respect that. But for people who want to cherry pick, like, this is the category I think I want, they get to wait for the second round. The people that are down with all of it are getting the first round from us, and we're sending out 3, 5, 10 different options for some of those people. And so what we're hoping is a lot of barrels coming onto the market from us where someone said, like, I tried many, many different styles of bourbon, and this was my favorite because of me.
Mhm.
And it's been really interesting for us, first of all, to see what people pick, and also to see what people thought they wanted and what they end up picking, and then to see who is so good that they identify something that we weren't allowed to tell them. And it doesn't happen often, but there's a couple of people in the country that have tasted so many single barrel offerings that they're like, I like this one for this reason. And then,
Sounds like Sugar Kitty Store, the comment that I featured out here, did a similar thing. They're like, we know where this is from, so we're just going to tell you.
Mhm.
Well, that's interesting, because I mean, I was, go back, 6 months ago, I was one of those people that I was like, yeah, if it's a Tennessee whiskey, it just doesn't do it for me. But I will say, I picked up a bottle of the Bottled and Bond George Dickel from last year, the 11-year one, and I was like, holy crap, this changes everything that I think about Tennessee whiskey. So I think that's like, people have their preconceived notions. Like, I mean, I was one of those people. I was like, I don't like Tennessee whiskey, but I'm like, you know what? If you try it going into it with an open mind, you may realize that it's probably really good, if not your favorite. Like you said, a barrel pick.
Yeah, and also sometimes there's preconceived notions for good reasons, but sometimes they're for bad reasons. And sometimes it's like you have an idea of what you like, but it's not necessarily everything you like. I grew up in New York City. It was very hard for me to live in California because I'm just like, I cut people off. I wear a sports jacket, doesn't mean I didn't make a lot of great
I'm not
friends
from California, so I moved from South Carolina, so I'm Southern at heart.
No, but my point is just like, I still had a great time out there. I still made a lot of good friends. It's not like I hate people from California, but it's like, I had a hint that I was going to end up in New York. And I agree. It's like, there's certain categories of whiskey that I like more, and I'm more prone to like those single barrels. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to love things that come out of a place that I didn't. I don't find myself drinking a ton of Irish whiskey. I had the Jameson 18-year-old release recently, and it blew me away.
Oh yeah, actually, you know what? Funny enough, I tried that at Disneyland. Like, of all places to try a like expensive Irish whiskey, I tried it at Disneyland, and I fell in love with it too. I haven't bought a bottle. I'm on the Redbreast. I'm kind of on the Redbreast train right now, but that 18-year from Jameson is really awesome. I do want to mention there's a comment from Fred, which I featured here. Fred's a patron of the show. He says on the single barrels, he's heard that there's a way to identify the mash bill from Tennessee, low rye versus high rye. Is that something that you guys put on the label, or is it just something that the store that picks it may know?
So our single barrels have a 4-digit code.
Okay.
And baked into that code are hints for us internally, so that when me or someone on the sales team gets asked, what do you think of barrel N137? We have an answer, because that's a ridiculous thing to ask a salesperson who has been working with 200 to 400 barrels that year.
Right.
The D series, anything that's a single barrel bourbon that starts with a D, was a high rick aging barrel from Tennessee. Okay. And anything that starts with a, let's see, I have my browser open so I can make sure that this
I just want to share the whole chart. I can feature it on the screen, but we'll keep that a secret.
Anything that starts with an H is a high rye mash bill. It doesn't mean that if it starts with another letter, it doesn't fall into that category, but the H series were single barrels that were picked out of Bourbon 24's base, which was high rye. And so all of the ones that went into the H series came out of a set that was 100% high rye. That being said, like, when you're talking about cask strength 9, 10, 13, 14-year-old bourbons, if you can find me someone who can identify mash bill tasting cask strength bourbons at that age blind, we have a job for them.
Yeah, there you go. If you guys are watching the
chat, there's things that might give you a hint, but there's just so much going on from the aging and from the wood and from temperature fluctuation, humidity fluctuation, altitude, toast level, char level, curing time, all of those things that at that point are going to be so much more impactful to the flavor than was it 8% rye, or was it 15% rye, or was it 21% rye, or was it 36% rye? What mash bill really does is it sort of sets the stage for the moments in a whiskey's life where the distillate is really speaking.
Sure.
And it affects fermentation quite a bit. And so mash bill to me is more of a conversation in the in the 2, 4, 5 year range. And as you get older, yeah, it's important, but it's not. It's an easy talking point, and so people still talk about it, but it's not. It's not the answer all the time.
Gotcha. Well, I guess since we are getting close on time, we got to talk about this last expression. I mean, I believe this is your best-selling product, if not the Dovetail series. Tell us about that.
So Dovetail is in 2020 was our best-selling product. It started as a little bit of a passion project. It is a whiskey that's a blend of 3 whiskeys, an Indiana whiskey, so not a bourbon, that is finished in Dunn Cabernet barrels. Dunn is like one of the most well-respected old family-owned Cabernet producers in Napa Valley. Oh, wow. They sit on Howell Mountain, which is in like the far northeast corner of the valley.
And no, I'm not from California, so I'm not going to pretend to know where that is.
Anyway, we made this whiskey. There was the whiskey finished in those barrels, and we loved it, but it was really abrasive. And so we took 2 other projects we were working on that were blended to be blending components because they were just pushed too far into the opulent zone. And they were both Tennessee bourbons. One is finished in late bottled vintage port pipes, and the other is finished in blackstrap molasses rum casks. So we used those to blend into Dovetail. We released it in December of 2018.
Okay.
2019. Anyway, we made 600 cases of it, and we released in December, which is the worst time to release a new product. If anyone ever wants to start a whiskey company and piss off a bunch of distributors and retailers, try to launch a whiskey in December. And it sold out immediately. And we had thought this is going to be like a thing that no one knows about, and in 4 years it'll be on some auctions and we'll say told you so. But it's like everyone who tried it was like, this is so good. And so that was the moment where we had to figure out how do we synthesize the idea that we are not concerned with recreating anything with we want to make Dovetail again. And so the final consensus was we will make all 3 ingredients the way that we always make them, and we will blend them to taste without knowing what the proof is every time. So that the ratios are different every time. And depending on the time of year, the finishing is going to be a different amount of time in each of the wood. It's blended to taste. And so on the Dovetail bottle, I think you got samples, not full 750s, right?
Yes, I'm not sure which batch. It's the 124.7, if that tells you anything.
Right. It doesn't off the top of my head.
Okay.
Although I believe on our website you can look that up. But if someone has a full bottle themselves, which looks like this, although the colors changed a little recently, we call this the spline, the place where the 2 colors meet themselves. And there's a little number all the way on the right side. And that'll give you... I can
zoom in for you if you want to show like specifically where that is here. Let's see.
Can you see the 6?
Wait, where is it? It's below the Dovetail? Or... I don't even see
all the way on the right side. It's the 3rd to the end.
Wait, it's in the little... Oh, that's like an Easter egg. That's awesome.
So we love Easter egging into our labels. If you look at our labels, most of them have something hidden in them somewhere.
Awesome.
And it's usually because the way that things are registered, they wind up being the same product legally. But if there's a difference, we want to be able to look at the bottle and figure it out.
Sure.
And you can do that through barcoding, and you do that through sort of glass encoding and chip encoding. But we just think it's fun to just Easter egg onto the label.
That's awesome.
My favorite Easter egg we ever did was we have a whiskey called the Infinite Barrel Project that we bottled on Halloween one year. And so we Easter egged the 0 in 2018 into a pumpkin for only that bottling.
Oh my God, that's so cool, man!
There's like 200 cases of Halloween.
So I know a store that has had that on their shelf forever, and I've never picked it up. I almost went today to go get it before the stream, and I was like, but now you make me really want to go and see if it is that special Halloween bottling, because that sounds so cool.
Unlikely, because that was a while ago, but
again, they've had it on their shelf for a while, so
you never know.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of different YouTubers chiming in. First of all, I said Whiskey Crusaders Whiskey Crusaders is an awesome channel here on YouTube. They said we've gotten a few bottles of Dovetail now. And of course, Jason from the Mash and Drum, another awesome YouTube channel, says Dovetail is my favorite barrel release. So damn good. So you got a lot of fans here on the Whiskey Tube.
Yeah, to be honest, Jason, too often I feel like the new thing is my favorite thing. But I look at the way that Dovetail is recognized now, and also when I'm tasting it against our portfolio, but against other whiskeys too. it is such a unique, specific flavor profile. And it's been around for more than 2 years now, and people know the name Dovetail, and it is the whiskey that I am most proud of that our company has done, because I feel like it no longer is this special release from us. It is like a whiskey that exists in the world of whiskeys. We now, as a company, if someone says like, "Oh, I like your brand, like what should I get?" We say like, get a batch of bourbon and get Dovetail, because you get to see like what is the history of our company, what is what we do. We are a bourbon producer, and then like what's the best example of why we're different, and it's Dovetail as a product.
And Dovetail, so it's still considered a whiskey, because that's just something that people were asking. Like it's not labeled as a whiskey, but you guys, it's still considered a whiskey legally, right?
So all of the ingredients of Dovetail are straight whiskeys.
Okay.
The issue with Dovetail when it was originally made, and the ruling has actually changed on the labeling laws now, but because we had to do it when we did, it is that because there was more than one state and more than one finish from different states. We got pushed into a category called distilled specialty spirits, which is also where like Angel's Envy is and a couple other whiskeys. And that was because no one knew what to do with us, because we were being upfront about the fact that like this whiskey's finished in this barrel and this whiskey's finished.
Right.
If we had said we blend them first and then we finish them, it would have been American whiskey, I think would have been the category.
Gotcha. And there's even some debate with, people that are doing their top 10 lists. Like some people say, do we include finished whiskeys? Like there's a debate internally with YouTube too. Like it's like somewhat like not a new thing, but it's like really surging between.
Yeah. And I don't really have a position on that, because there isn't a good word for it. Finished whiskeys is a weird category because, all of them are done in such different ways. I think what is important to us as a company is if we are finishing a bourbon or a rye, we declassify it into whiskey. Because we feel that even in moments where you can get away with it, that sort of violates the spirit of what bourbon and rye and American rye are.
Yeah, and like you said, I've never thought about it that way. Most people are concerned not saying bourbon finish, but by saying whiskey finish, it kind of loses that stigma.
Well, we have this product, Armida, where we do say bourbon whiskey finished in pear brandy.
Okay, and that's actually what I was going to ask you. That's your newest release that's coming out soon, or is it?
Yes, it's out. It was allocated and still is sort of allocated, although it's coming into full availability into March. It takes us about 6 months of finishing to make this, and so what we laid down in October-ish will be available in March, and it'll be more available. Okay. Like Dovetail, it's a blend of 3 different whiskeys, although all 3 of them started as bourbon. They were finished separately in Jamaican rum casks, French oak pear brandy casks, and Sicilian Amaro barrels.
Interesting.
And so for this one, like to us, this is a whiskey. It is not barrel bourbon Armida. It's just barrel Armida. But unlike Dovetail, where one of the ingredients is a whiskey and the other 2 are bourbons, all 3 of the ingredients for this started as bourbon. Seagrass, which is the third, the one that is going to be rye-based, is Indiana rye, Canadian rye, and Indiana whiskey. So again, we won't call it a rye, even though most of it was a rye at the beginning of its life.
Sure. So it's a similar thing where you finish it in a bunch of different. What is Seagrass finished in?
Seagrass is Martinique rum, so it's a rum agricole finish. Although we are respecting the denomination of origin in Martinique, and because it's not bottled there and not a rum, we're not saying agricole on the label. Malmsey Madeira, which is the sweetest, sort of most opulent of the traditional styles of Madeira, and apricot brandy.
Oh, wow. So interesting. You guys change it up depending on, the spirit that's going into it. That's really interesting. Well, I'll definitely have to have you back on the show to talk about that one. That sounds really, so you said March is what you guys are targeting for
March, April. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I did have a question. I did see in the chat, people are debating. People are checking all their barrel bottles real quick. Are all the Dovetail bottles labeled with the little hidden code or no?
Everything starting with, I think, the 4th vatting has the code.
Okay.
What we had before that is up here on this bottle is a D.
Okay. Well, I know Will from the Whiskey Crusaders, he posted his bottle, and I just verified it doesn't have the number code on it. So Will, check your bottle, see if what it has. Just want to answer that question because I know everyone's super curious now.
If it has a number on the top, that means it was a 1 or a 2 or maybe a 3.
Okay, he said, "Oh, that's it. I've got it."
Okay, so I think then, Will, you have the fourth fatting, which is the moment that we were told we couldn't put it on the top anymore because they said it was misleading as an age statement, which is ironic because everything in here was everything in the bottle was 10 years old, but they thought we were trying to say it was a 3-year-old on top, and it was before we started Easter egging it. So there's one bottle, there's one vatting that has no number on the front label. It does have an Easter egg on the back label, but I'm not going to tell you where it is.
Oh, well, you gotta check that one out. Well, again, I know we're running out of time here. I know our friend Perry on This Is My Bourbon podcast has a very special guest tonight from Bourbon Pursuit. So once we're done here, y'all go check out his. If one of the mods in the chat, Donnie, I'm not sure if you have the link to Perry's stream, put that in the chat. But again, Will, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Of course,
I
thank you
learned
so much for
a
having
lot
me.
about barrel. I've never really. I've been a bit intimidated by it. I forgot to mention this earlier. I was always intimidated because y'all have a lot of releases. Like, and we talked about a few of them, but y'all have so many other ones. And just as a consumer, I was like, I don't know where to start with barrel. But doing research for tonight's stream, I realized you guys have it all laid out on your website. So I encourage anyone that's also confused like I was, check out their website because they are super transparent. I love that about you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, well,
and to answer that question, I think that like the best way to start with us is, first of all, with Dovetail to sort of see an example of what we do. And all of our releases are vetted by Joe in the exact same way. And so our bourbons are, even though they change with every batch, it's the same group that's saying this is the best thing I can make right now. It's almost like a seasonal restaurant.
I didn't give any notes on the Dovetail other than it's very, very good. That rum, I think, is the biggest influence on, at least for me. That's what I'm noticing. It's really rum forward, but not in an overwhelming way. I've tried some other rum finished spirits that I didn't really love, but this one's really balanced with that whiskey. Like you said, it's not necessarily like a rye or a bourbon. It's just an American whiskey that you guys are using as the base, right? Yeah, so I think this is really great. I mean, you said you don't have a favorite. You don't pick favorites, but I'm assuming you like the Dovetail too.
Dovetail's the one I'm most proud of. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's the one I'm most proud of.
Gotcha.
Anyway, I know I've kept you guys late, so I don't want to.
No, it's all good. And again, you're welcome anytime. I would love to try on the channel the new releases that you said, the Armida and the Seagrass. Am I saying that? Is it Seagrass?
Yeah, the two of us should talk with Aaron, who I know set this up, and we should find a time in April or so for me to come back.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you back. And again, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. It's been a blast. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more barrel, let me know in the comments below, or if you're watching the replay, #replay_squad down below. Let me know what barrel products you're interested in me trying on the channel. And let me know if you want Will back. Of course you do, but just let me know, let him know that you want him back on the channel. Well,
cool. Thank
cheers,
you all so
Will, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining.